Let me know when we live on the platforms, y'all. How we looking on Facebook?
We live.
All right. Somebody on YouTube? Good. Welcome to Lapeef Let's Talk. I'm here with the crew as usual. Tawana, B Nix, and Anton,
What up, though?
and myself, J.I. Our first topic, we're going to be discussing cuffing season. What is cuffing season? I don't know if you guys remember, Fabulous had a mixtape he put out called the Soul Tape 3. And he had a song called Cuffing Season. I'm going to say a little bit of it. He said, you was in the La Marina all summer. You was up in the Toxic all summer. Now it's getting chilly. That's the fall coming. Now that ninja get a call from her. To me, cuffing season is when single people begin to look for short-term partnerships to pass the colder months of the year. It usually lasts between October to just around Valentine's Day. What is cuffing season, Tawana?
It's exactly what you said. It's the right before the winter hit, you try to get a little boost so you won't be lonely during the winter.
A boost.
A little boo booski.
A little boosty. Oh, that's what you call it?
A little boo booski. That's what I call them. You get your little boo booski so you won't be lonely. You have somebody to lay up with, somebody to, because it's kind of difficult in Chicago to find somebody in the winter. It's just like you have some tough winters. It'd be good if you got somebody already set in stone.
Yeah, that means folks should be putting in applications now, man.
That's
like,
they have to.
After Friday, 80 degrees, that's going to be it.
Listen, my most successful relationships happen in cuffing season. I'm just going to say it. Like, I got cuffed up.
Man, that's that baby making
September,
weather. That's that baby making weather. That's how these spring and summer
I got cuffed up in September. It just happened to last after the cuffing season was over. Sometimes it lasts, and sometimes, like JR said, it ends right around Valentine's Day. It's a wrap after that. But yeah, it's exactly what you said. That's what cuffing season is.
Hey, B Nix, what's cuffing season to you?
I don't know. Low key, you bothered me with them lyrics. I really you said the shit like a spoken word. It was cool, but that shit sound maybe the whole acapella with no beats. It didn't really hit my soul like that, man.
Yeah.
But that was just something I wanted to just wait until it was my turn to talk.
I appreciate your input.
Okay, no problem. But hey, cuffing season, it's that snuggle weather, man. Even for dudes, whether we, articulate that or not, want somebody to lay up with, possibly move in with, just temporary though.
It's a move in.
Yeah, it's dudes that move in with chicks. I'm now saying chicks and move in with women all the time.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a high five on that one.
Nah, man, I'm all about appropriate language. That was a Freudian slip. So, but yeah,
don't let Anton rub off on you, man.
Hey, it's all about you got to secure the deal, though. You got to secure the deal. Like I'm telling you, like around Labor Day, going into right before that first snowfall. So snow usually hits around either the beginning of November or on Thanksgiving Day. So the thing is, that means you got 2 solid months, September going in, like between Labor Day and Halloween. To find at least one. You just need one. That's the thing. Folks want to get greedy. All it takes is one.
Anton, cuffing season. What's cuffing season to you?
I've always identified cuffing season with, it's a guy thing technically, I guess, but I've always kind of identified it with women simply because, I never understood it. Okay, cuffing season is exactly what B Nix and Tawana identified it as, right? It's getting cold outside, and we want to have some insurance as far as making sure that we got some extra body heat that go on in the wintertime, and you can really link up and do what you want to do and all of that. But I never understood it from a guy's perspective, because it's almost like it's only relevant if you don't go out. like the fall and the winter is when I kind of hit the streets the most because
what streets are you hitting
right
in the middle of December and why?
That's
what type of exploration you're on? Like in December, January?
You don't chill out, you don't hibernate like the bears.
Nobody ain't trying to get Timberland up just to go out to grab something to eat, man.
Yo, fam.
Uber Eats all season.
Fall and the winter.
Uber Eats all cuffing season.
The fall and the winter is when you can get the freshest. Like that's the freshest gear. You know what I'm saying? All of that.
Fall do have some good weather, especially for dressing.
Well, fall is still kind of the cuffing. You know, that's when you still searching. You know what I mean? You're still looking in the fall. You know, then I get over.
You can wear your hoodies like late fall.
Yeah, so you still looking. You know what I mean? So you can still be fresh a little bit. You know,
you can't even see nobody under them bubble jackets anyway, man. It's too cold, man. Everybody got a coat on. You can't really.
And then look, now we got masks and we got a bubble jacket.
Yeah, you can't check out what folks working with under the pea coat, man.
Nah, fam. Like I'll be fresh to death in the winter and the fall, and it'd be absolutely phenomenal. And I'm out in these streets just as much as I am in the
you
summer.
One of them dudes that like never have salt on your Timbs and stuff. Like almost
never.
Like you got some type of like that spray that shit just like Thompson, but for like your shoes or whatever. Some like sealant that just the snow just falls off your shit.
Like I'm out of town right now taking care of business, but I'm the guy that when I leave and I get to my hotel room, like I put all my stuff in the drawers in the closet, bro. Like I'm laid out.
You ain't living out the suitcase like
you making yourself at home.
Baby.
I'm living out the suitcase the whole time, and like I can't do it. Maybe I hang up some stuff.
I forgot you cut from a different cloth though, Anton.
Yeah,
like,
baby.
Definitely, I feel like we understand each other, but it's definitely a difference between you and I.
But see that's my thing. Like the cuffing season is weird for me because I look at the fall, winter, and the spring as like grind time. Like I don't even want to be bothered that much during that specific time because I'm stacking my cheese. I'm working as hard as I can. I'm not necessarily aligned with or spending any of my free time doing anything except for in the gym, working as hard as I can, putting everything together because I'm preparing myself to, you know, when everybody is stunting during tax season, I'm going to let them have it. And then when all of their checks fall away, then I'm going to go ahead and step out and then we're going to take over the rest of the year. So I always looked at it as kind of like a girl thing, like a girl security thing, but I never got with the concept of cuffing season. It never ever applied to me ever in my life.
You might be looking at it from, you know, we looking at it from a single person's point of view, though. You know what I mean? Like
even from a single person. I mean, but
bro, unless cuffing season includes trips, which if I just hollered at you like September, October, I don't know if you like go out
ready to go on trip
status. You more like I'm a Hulu and chill or Netflix or Disney.
No,
Disney Plus type, you know. You did.
My thing is I can meet you the same week and then it's time to take a trip. Like you can fly on out. Like we
man,
we
you
live
can't
in a
take
different
everybody
era.
out of town. Man, I need more.
I ain't taking everybody out of town. Now you can't go out of town with people.
Hey, this like they can do this like a job. 90-day probation period before
you can do like a Michigan trip, like from Chicago. We can go somewhere like 2 hours away. Go to Wisconsin.
Yeah, nah, bro.
You can't fly nowhere. Like nah.
What up?
Hey, Nix, is cuffing season ruining our approach to dating?
No, but COVID is. Because now it's like, I don't know how folks looking under this mask. So cuffing season may have started a little prematurely just because like folks may be limited on how many engagements they can have with folks. So, but I don't think it's limiting at all. I mean, I just think that like, if anything, it's expectation setting. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that this is something that's not just married to just a man or a woman. I think both parties understand, especially like Tawana mentioned, living in the Chi. Hey, you got like what to Halloween, so you got about 3 solid weeks to make it happen, and then maybe you could pick up like some last minute clearance rack type stuff in the beginning of November, right before Thanksgiving. You know,
whoever ain't got picked, somebody ain't got chose yet.
Hey, it's like when you go to the club. You got to work on when you go to the club. You got to choose early. You got to be strategic. You can't be that person when the lights come on. Then now you're trying to close the deal. Hey, it's too late then. And that's what folks gonna be doing early November. They're gonna be trying to close them last minute deals, or as we all know, folks wanna you know what? There's some free agents out there. They want to extend another year of the contract to say, hey, you know, last year it worked out pretty decent. Let's do it again.
Let's extend
it. Hey, Tawana.
Yeah.
Is cuffing season ruining our approach to dating? Same question.
It's part of dating. It's it's part of the process. See, what happens is in the summer, you kind of hanging out, you having fun. That's the last thing you thinking about, especially when you in Chicago. You kicking it all summer, you hanging out, and honestly, I feel like I met my boyfriend a couple times in the summer, but actually we just wasn't ready yet. Then, cuffing season came, and it's like, oh, wait, let me call him and see what he got going on. That's how it goes. It's just what it is.
No, it's like an audition.
Sometimes
it's like an audition.
It's just how it goes. I'm trying to
figure
out what I wanted.
At times, see you shaking your head.
He like,
bro. You know what? This takes me back to the last podcast that we had with the hoe phase. It's almost like the summer is the hoe phase.
Anton mentioned you don't call it that for men. It's like being a player or like just being a man, being a hunter.
Here you go again with these titles.
You should just rename it. It's hunting.
But think about it though. That's why I say it always seemed like a girl thing, because it's like, oh, she want to have a hot girl summer. Like we don't have hot boy summers. Like that sound very weak.
Yeah, I don't even feel comfortable.
Y'all like that all year round.
I don't even feel comfortable with all hot.
Hey, Tawana, I ain't gonna let you dog us like that now.
Yeah, y'all like that all year round. It ain't gotta be summer. It ain't
we just weighing our options. We just weighing our options.
Hey, but that means women are hunters too, then, right? Women are hunters too as well.
But they are hunters, but they're not supposed to be like overtly like obvious hunters. You know what I'm saying?
You know
like
I'm
not a hunter. I'm not a hunter at all. They gotta approach.
Yes,
they gotta approach me.
I don't have nothing wrong with a woman shooting a shot.
You don't like the label. You don't like the label, but you have hunted before. I guarantee.
You know what the difference is, Tawana? I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah, tell me what you think. What you mean?
We all hunters, but men are like, I got the gun. I'm going through the wood hunting. Women are trappers. Like they set the trap for you. And so it's just a different way in which you
got a different strategic approach, man. It's tactical.
I don't set no trap.
It's tactical.
That's
man. They have
true.
different tactics.
Everything y'all do in y'all nature is trapping. Like, you know what dress to wear to get the attention. You know what to say. You're looking for a certain signal in order for him to implement before. Like,
is this a real serious? I mean, like, this is not intentional. Y'all
don't know what y'all gonna wear and what y'all looking at that night.
Just because I'm fabulous and I like to look good, don't mean that I'm doing that because I want a man to approach.
Okay, so all right, so why y'all don't go to the bar looking like y'all do when y'all go visit your mom?
No, I ain't gonna lie. I'm the same women with great leggings, and that shit is just fine to me. Something about great leggings, man. It does it for me. It really
Look at Nick talking about his fetishes right now.
I love great leggings, man.
But see, let me tell you, like you coming from my mother always dressed up every time, every day. And so that's how I learned to be. Like you go to my house, my mama's house right now, and I bet you her bag match her purse and her shoes. And she just in the house. Like,
but she's an exception. That's not what these new chicks looking like.
A lot of women.
Every woman has, I think, a different strategic approach.
Yeah,
which is the trap.
Some women,
it's not a trap.
Need to dress up every day. Some people don't look as good.
Right.
They need to be on point every day.
But I mean, we see these chicks out here with these headscarves on, like they not trapping at that moment.
No, they trapping. Oh, because men are liking that.
Yeah. What I tell you, if they got the great leggings on, say less.
The leggings are leggings are the first trap.
Think I'm playing.
Leggings are the first trap.
They got they can have a do-rag on. But the great leggings
but I mean, but listen, but V-Nix, that's not the women trying to trap. That's just us being savages. Like
no,
we
Anton.
are savages.
Anton, if they wearing them leggings, they on the thirst trap. Like maybe they
even
walking
so
around.
even with that,
might try to do
thirst trap. It's just normal now.
But
now
think about
just,
it though, Tawana. Like the mindset is still the same. Like y'all still know what y'all doing when y'all doing it. It's still a trap. Y'all know what y'all wearing. Y'all know how y'all rocking.
No.
What type of attention you gonna get? When you pull up.
No.
I'm with Anton on that one. Women do know, and women, and I'm going back to you, Tawana. Everybody act like naive, like, oh, this whole thing and all that. I want some damsel in distress type of stuff. Man. Come on, bitch. I thought we was having an adult conversation.
I can go to Dollar Tree in some jogging pants and a shirt, and
are they great?
Are they great?
I be just trying to
if
go
they
shop.
If they
it don't matter what it doesn't matter what you wear, and it's not always to get men attention. It's not always. That's not.
Yeah, maybe it's not always to get men's attention.
No.
But I know that y'all know what y'all doing.
Women, we like to look good regardless.
You're not naive. You're not naive to what you look like. So you didn't even look in the mirror when you threw your stuff on. You just like you threw your leggings on and that was just it.
No, I mean I don't really wear leggings. I mean I'm talking about my I'm not a leggings girl like like you think. I'm sorry. I have some skinny jeans and things like that.
You probably wear dresses for no reason. You know that woman that overdress? Be like,
you know what? People say that about me. They be like, you do too much. You dressing too why are you dressing up like that? That's just in me. I don't know. So I guess yes, I am that woman probably that's doing too much. Like I'm overdressed. Maybe we just.
So you just dressing with no motives, right? Just
no,
dressing.
I mean
it may appeal to a different type of man.
I like to look good. I like to look good. I like.
Like you sure you're not up on that? Like Aisha Curry, trying to seek attention.
Yes, all women want. Listen, all women want attention. Even if a woman is in a relationship,
I don't want that.
Okay, so wait a minute. Wait, Tawana. You telling me that if you in a relationship and then men just automatically, basically, just looked at you ignored, sullied goods now because you in a relationship. You're not looking for positive affirmations from people. You're not looking for a compliment. That's not something that tickles your fancy. And I don't mean that somebody necessarily is trying to get with you or that you gonna even entertain it. But at the same time, women love attention. They love compliments. They like being treated.
I think at this point in my life, it's just not necessary. I think
folks want to be fake humble and stuff, man. They don't really do it for me.
It's not necessary.
I'm so well accomplished right now and confident on who I am. I don't need that.
Some women, depending on where they at in their life, they may need that, and I'm not encouraged.
Can I say something? Because the fact that it go both ways. I think as a man, I don't mind. Like that's why I even say about the women are hunters too, because in their own way, it may not be overt like Anton mentioned, but men also want to feel like, hey, you checking me out or whatever,
Yep.
But women have different ways. Like you said, I just go with what you say, like a traps. It's but you got to know.
It's not a trap.
To know what the trap is, because many men miss all those cues that women think that they're setting these traps for.
B-Nix, I don't think that we're going to disagree. I don't think we're going to disagree one time on the subject, bro.
Of course, all men feel that way. Y'all are so
Hey, B-Nix, let me ask you something.
Self-absorbed.
What up?
All right, during this cuffing season, are people cuffing people that they really want, or they just cuffing just because it's temporary?
I think it depends on which month they actually started working on the deal. If it's that back end of the summer where somebody used, even Tawana mentioned somebody hey, you have summer, whatever, hey, I want to extend the contract on this, right? So I want to kind of continue this. Then it's yeah, you feeling it. But if it's one of those right before that weekend, right before Thanksgiving or that Thanksgiving Day party, then you just trying to get whatever's left over. So I think it depends on the intent. And let's be honest, some people may have cuffing season that consists of more than one partner. So that's the part that hey, I think it goes back to folks' intent and how early you're planning. Folks got to be strategic.
But let me answer that though, JR, too, because I think that ultimately the roles reverse. I think that in most situations, because I was talking to some young dudes over last weekend, and for the most part, especially in the summer, I think it's so much easier for women to get attention, right? Like they are in a space to where they can dress a little bit more. They traps are a little bit more potent. Let's put it like that, right? But then, you know, when it get cold outside and they don't want to put in as much effort because, you know, it take a lot more to get out there in that cold weather and it hit different. I think that the roles reverse and that men become a little bit more powerful. And again, it kind of goes back to, I think, our innate instincts as men, right? And in a lot of ways, even if we don't think about it, we are like providers or you know, people that make you feel a little bit more secure. So naturally, girls want to be up under a guy when they're not overly showered with attention, when it's not as easy to be able to trap a guy. Whereas, you know what I'm saying, in the summer, and this is from what a lot of the young guys was telling me over the weekend. They like, man, you know, like I got to be on my game. I got to work a little bit harder. You know what I'm saying? I got to kind of, you know, be a little bit more strategic and how I rock and all of that other type of stuff. But I think that women know what they're doing, and I think that fake humble that a lot of women have. Like, I didn't know that this was as tight as it was on my body. Like, come on, man. Like, y'all be.
I don't know, but I think that y'all
only want to play this one side. This is ridiculous. I need to speak up, okay? Because this is like getting the low. Y'all not hate women. We do not intentionally go out to trap men. We are not out here trying to.
Maybe we're not saying the word trap, but I think we initiated this kind of offhand conversation
If y'all cuffing, we cuffing. What we're doing is we putting our best foot forward, looking our best, feeling our best, and hoping to meet somebody great, right? Like we are trying to.
Well, I won't call it trap.
Hey, Tawana.
Like y'all trying to meet somebody.
But Tawana, the question is it temporary?
What temporary?
When you cuff them, when you cuff them. Is it
no.
Well, what's summer's called then? Because I mean, folks, it is seasonal, but what do you call summer?
You know what? We can get
cuffing season is for winter.
You can get cuffed anytime. You can get cuffed during the winter. Like Antoine
Why is it essential during the winter months though?
Because what happens is, like, you don't go out. I mean,
you're right.
Who's going out?
Lonely ass months, man.
Yeah, like you in the winter and you at home. Like I barely.
You know what it is, B Nix? You know what it is, B Nix? It's not even necessarily the weather, I think. I think it's the seasonal gatherings and stuff.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They want to have somebody on their arm and introduce them during Thanksgiving.
No.
They want to be able to go to the Christmas party and have a date to the company party.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're not bringing nobody to see your parents that you cuffed right before the cuffing season.
But that's why they start. But that's why they draft early. That's why they start. Hey. They start like mid-August.
Yeah, man.
Late August.
So you know, I'm not gonna win this conversation because y'all all on the same page.
So Tawana,
y'all got this all messed up.
So Tawana, all right. So you're not gonna at least give me, because you're gonna have to give a little, right? You're not gonna at least give me the idea that women are intentionally doing certain things a lot of times, even if they don't overtly say it. You telling me that y'all don't know what y'all look like, y'all not actually trying to attract a certain type of, you're not intentional, maybe not you, but women in general in a lot of instances, you can't give me the fact that women are intentional in they traps.
Absolutely.
A lot of times.
I mean, no, I didn't say that we trapping, but I think that we are intentional about what we wearing, how we look, what type of man we want to attract, you know, because we look good. We want to show that we take care of ourselves, and we want a man that looks the same. You know what I mean? Like if you a woman that likes to take care of herself, sometimes you're looking for a man, you know, who compliments you in some way. So yeah, a woman is intentional, and so are men. I know men that buy the freshest J's and try to look their best and how they fit going together. Let me crease this up. Like they do that to get women's attention. Let me drive.
I don't agree with that. I don't.
Yes, y'all do. Y'all driving Lambos, y'all renting type of cars, and y'all doing this stuff to get women's attention because y'all think That's all the types of things
that's not true.
Want.
That's not true
Y'all
at all. Okay,
yes,
okay.
y'all
So
are.
I'll give you an
Y'all
example.
trapping.
Okay.
Trapping.
So I got my watch on, right? You telling me I bought this watch for women?
Well, I mean, you married, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think
that's what I'm saying. My
point is that for that.
But my point is that
single man,
I still buy all the shoes. I still buy all of the, you know what I'm saying? I travel everywhere.
Maybe you are. I don't know.
But why am I doing it if that's not the case?
Because maybe you are though, or maybe that's just kind of one of your things that you know. You
well,
kind of.
I think the thing to say, like I think the thing to say is that some men do it for clout.
Okay, but you can't say
and then some men.
No, I asked you.
No, you know there are some There are some women that trap. There are some women that trap. Like I'm agreeing. Like I'm actually on your side with this, and I'm actually telling you that I agree that some men do it for clout.
That's right.
And then you have some men that do it just because they want to look good for themselves.
That's right.
Every time they step out. Same thing with women. You have some women that do trap, but right now you acting like women. There are women that do not trap.
What
women
I
out there know exactly what they're doing when they go out.
What I said was, don't make an absolute.
They plotting.
Y'all absolute statements.
But nobody said it's absolute.
Yeah.
We referring specifically to cuffing season, right? Yeah. And so when you talk about cuffing season, you're talking about trying to find somebody to link up with for an extended period of time, whether it extend or not. We gon', I'm trying to find the right person.
Let me put this freakum dress on because I know he gon'.
So I
think it depends on the setting.
I'm gonna catch you a few. Yeah, I mean,
depends on the setting.
I'm not saying that don't happen, of course.
Like when we talking about I think y'all mentioned like Christmas parties, get-togethers, like stuff like that. I think it's situational based on how strategic you want to be or whatever. But I think men and women kind of do it just it's a different way.
Yeah,
I don't know if men like think about it like that though. Like the trap or whatever word we want to use, whatever pseudonym y'all want to come up with, but I don't think we call it trapping. Just like, man, you brought up a point, Tawana, with like just the car, the style of dress.
That's right.
Freshness. I want to be.
I know men who do that,
but I do want to be noticed about my freshness, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do.
Start on them, Nick. Start on them.
When a man come in, when he come in and he's fresh head to toe, he wants you to notice that. And a man, he love when you notice that, like, oh,
100%.
She see me. And honestly, when they driving in a fresh car or they got, they living their best life and they they doing a great, they showing us all the stuff that they have. They got.
Yeah, I want you to pay attention.
You want people to pay attention, and that's what men do. So it's a trap both ways. It's a trap both ways.
I want you to pay attention. I didn't buy that just for me. I bought that for us. So I can drive and then you can admire. However, that specific thing is not always a trap per se, right? Just to be noted, it's not necessarily trying to get.
I agree. I don't think it's a trap. It's just like
it all depends on a woman's mindset.
No, I mean a lot of times it's just like I'll say this. A lot of guys, even with guys that sleep with a lot of chicks, a lot of times it's not necessarily that. And sometimes it is that some women are better than others, but a lot of times the reason why guys do certain things is not necessarily because we're comparing this girl against this girl. We just have an ego. And so that ego kind of extends into different lanes, even when we're not necessarily looking for anything, right? Guys in general, we want to conquer the world a lot of times, or a lot of the guys that I know, they trying to win at everything in life, even in basketball, like, most of the time there's no chicks out there watching us play basketball, but we have a competitive spirit and our ego wants to be boosted by the idea that we are winning in everything that we do. So a lot of times it's not for a trap or anything like that, but it's really just for our own self-motivation, our own self-esteem, our own ego. It feeds into something that we're trying to do that makes us better than the person that's next to us. And that may be a flaw in itself, but as it relates to women, I don't think that that's always the objective when it comes to guys and their effort.
That is so you know how when Aisha Curry, I know he referenced her. Basically what she was saying was like, she kind of like still feels like when she gets that validation, like she knows she still got it, right? Like if she's walking down the street and don't no man say nothing to her, she probably feeling like, dang, you know, am I?
But my
falling
thing
off?
with her was,
Hold
why
on,
did it
hold
have
on.
to come from a man though?
Right, but she's saying, am I falling off? Right, like, am I not like looking good? Now maybe she's starting to question whether.
So she set the trap, even if she gonna let the prey go, right?
Just like you.
It's like fishing. She
But
gonna catch the fish.
No.
Hey, I love
her
y'all
line
analogies
still works,
tonight.
No,
but she
because
gonna
it's
throw the
just like
fish
what
back
you said.
into the water.
Anton, but it's just like what you said. How you said that sometimes y'all have an ego and y'all just trying to fulfill y'all ego. Women have the same experience where they just want to feel great and look like you know, feel good about themselves. And they want to make sure they don't have no intention of entertaining not one man. But
I can rock with that.
And that
I can rock with that. I just want you to acknowledge that a lot of these women know what they're doing.
Well,
that's my only thing.
Going back
y'all
to folks
know
what they're doing. If we're like, so JR, can you give us the guardrails of how long, when does cuffing season begin and end? Was it October to March?
He said
October to right after Valentine's Day.
Okay.
No, before.
About right.
Right before Valentine's.
No,
because the weather gonna start changing.
For Midwest folks, it's like sweetest day to Valentine's Day, right?
But think about it though. Even after Valentine's Day, it's still cold outside. But it feeds into what I said.
Yeah, but they already started to gear up.
Actual events and seasons and stuff like.
But cuffing season, that person you cuffing, like, is that like just a one-time deal, or
well,
next?
That was my next question. Can somebody that's cuffed, can that turn to be something serious?
I think if folks play their cards right, depending on expectations, if it's truly just for that, what's the terms from October to like March? Hey, it's April. I'm out here again, you know?
Yeah, right.
So I think as long as both folks know that, like, hey, this is just something I'm doing. You know, I think we, like, whatever phase we want to call this. But, hey, like, as long as both folks know, like, hey, this is just something I'm doing right now until, like, I figure out my next move. You can't go into cuffing season necessarily with the intent to say, like, oh man, I'm about to wife this chick, you know what I mean? Or I'm about to cuff this guy. Like, I think that if it happens, it happens, but I don't think you could go into it leading that way because you might get your feelings hurt. Or after Valentine's Day.
I'm gonna be kind of honest. I think that some men go in trying to cuff something and then they might fall into that trap. But when the weather,
he's still falling in the trap. It ain't no.
But when the weather gets nice, I mean, men greedy. You know, men like things.
Y'all are not victims.
I'm not saying all men.
Hey, low key, women greedy too, though.
They are. Yeah, I'm gonna get to the women.
But they a different type of greedy. They like, they in a relationship. I want that.
Right.
That's a different type of greed.
Hey, but soon as
you know what, that ain't right. That's what that is.
It's women out there that like that. Don't act alarmed. We just talking about some people, right?
Yeah, they just can't help themselves. You know, they get shown a little attention and they go overboard.
I didn't say all.
Some.
Yeah, I concentrate on teaching you how to, think like a first class chick, not like secondary. Like that's what I concentrate on. I concentrate on the non-side chick, so I don't think like a side chick. You know what I mean? I ain't looking at nobody else's husband like, ooh, I want that. Nope, I want my own husband. In my own life, in my own situation.
I think the rules have changed with that too. I mean, I think somebody posted in the chat, like, hey, I don't mind being somebody's third BM as long as I'm the first wife. And like, folks have changed their priorities and stuff.
That was B. Simone. She said that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And it was a controversial statement. A lot of people had mixed reviews about it.
Yeah, because the rules of engagement has changed.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was basically saying, well, if you're the third baby mama, but you're the first wife, you accomplish more than.
Yeah, it's about the outcome, right?
So that's how
it goes back to like folks got different. Like come summer, folks gonna be like, "Hey, I'm out here again. I ain't trying to be." Because the thing is, think about it. The activities are different. I think Anton, you mentioned this. It's different type of activities that take place during the winter. Unless you cuffing somebody that you have established the fact that you could also be my travel buddy. The thing is, y'all in the crib. But hey, come spring, I mean, hey, it's gonna be day parties, boat parties, all the good movies, the good blockbuster movies are during the summer. It's barbecues, get-togethers.
But see, that's the thing, though. B-Nix is that
that's the test, y'all.
No, because the thing about it is that now you not in a space where you need to be up under somebody.
Yeah.
Like you got a little bit more freedom as a woman.
Weather.
And so now you want to have your hot girl summer.
Yeah, nobody not trying to
chill
Friday night like under no blanket, watching some whatever Netflix just dropped on Thursday.
Let me tell you about cuffing season, how it ends. Usually around February, right? If you don't hear from that dude on Valentine's Day, you already know what's going on. Like that's why cuffing season ends, and that's why you got to get that out there.
You just say that you don't believe in Valentine's Day, man.
Listen,
you just say it's the white man's holiday and some shit like that.
I get gifts every year. You know, I believe
that's a created holiday. That's not a real.
I believe in that, baby. Don't listen to me next. I believe in that. Anyway, don't listen to hell. You know what I mean? Just in case you watch it. But anyway, yeah. So if you don't call somebody at the Valentine's Day or on Valentine's Day, you know how you be setting them plans. Let me tell you.
You just say like, "Hey, I have to work a double."
That has happened to me.
I have to work a double today. I tried to get off, man. Boston tripping.
Listen, I was cuffed on cuffing season. Let me tell you. And I'm with this guy. I'm like, oh, we doing good. And Valentine's Day come, right? He like, yeah, I got plans. You know what I'm saying? He calling me all day, telling me about. He never show up. Never.
What, his car broke down?
That's too funny.
He was telling me like, oh, you know, I couldn't get this place. And, you know, I'm trying to reserve this. And it was, I'm like, but if you planned this already.
You know, moms got sick. You know, hey,
everything.
Got to look out for moms first.
He was communicating with me. And then he ended up like starting a fight with me. So he couldn't talk. So we wouldn't talk the whole day. Then he tried to call me next day. You know what I mean? I'm like,
he started a fight on the 13th.
Hey, that's a hard thing to do when a girl don't want to fight. Like she's not even looking to fight you.
Yeah, I wasn't even trying to fight.
To be able to effectively pull that off, that's
all you gotta say, like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I don't even want to talk about this no more. Just hang up the phone.
No.
Just hang it up like that.
Let me tell you how he did. He was like, "You ungrateful. You an ungrateful ass mother."
See,
I was like, "What?"
It's all about the tonation of your voice. All you gotta do is just elevate the tonation of your voice, and then that cements it. Then hang up the phone.
What did I do? I was so sad. Like I didn't even do nothing. Like I'm trying to be cool.
I mean, it worked.
It worked. You got me. You got me.
Hey, Nix.
What up?
Hey, I know this conversation, people listening in, and they were concerned about being cuffed since it's cuffing season. What advice would you give somebody to not be a victim of this cuffing season?
I don't know. I don't think it's a victim to be cuffed. You know, I think you got to embrace the cuff. You know, you got to embrace the cuff if that's your intent.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, this is like if we're looking at it like sports. This is like preseason or something like that. This is like finding out whether you actually gonna make the team or not, depending whether it's a team or you're a team of one. Hey, you can be a team of one. You know, it happens in some capacity, but nonetheless, this is you basically auditioning and like, hey, I got what you need. This is why we need to roll together. Okay, cool. So I think folks need to embrace the cuff if that's their intent.
Yeah.
Tawana, same question. What advice would you give somebody that's concerned about being a victim of this cuff season?
Change your mentality because it's not victimization time.
It's not a victim.
It's time to embrace that because you know what? Cuffing season, like you might look at it like, oh, he's just trying to, like it could actually turn into some long-term, like a good old-fashioned marriage relationship, and you just gotta be open, especially when you single. You have to be open to
can I say something
different ways to make me. No, you gonna let me finish my little statement though.
You always come in.
Now go ahead, B-Nix. Go ahead, B-Nix. You know I like you, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and intervene.
Okay.
You know, go ahead. You can tell me. Yeah, there you go.
Hey, to that point, to want to make it, folks got to be strategic about that time period. If you don't play it right with Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, and New Year's, hey, come a new calendar year. Hey, you know how you know nobody not feeling you? With that person you think y'all in it and it's not there, no return on phone calls. You get the delayed text message, they hit you up like the next day, like, oh, I didn't even see my phone. I couldn't even find it. Oh, my battery dead. Damn, a whole day and you working remote? So folks gotta be able to catch the context clues too. If it's not playing out by New Year's, it might already be over before spring.
I mean, you know what? I literally felt like it just worked out like that. I met somebody during cuffing season, and I mean, it wasn't intentional. So I feel like give it a chance, because really, I mean, you know, my whole mentality was like, no, I'm just gonna chill. Like, I ain't trying to meet nobody. I'm gonna work out this winter. I ain't about to be focused on no relationship. And then next thing you know, bam, at the end of cuffing season,
you threw on them gray jogging
pants.
Yeah,
he did. I was like, ooh, wait, I missed out these gray jogging pants. I seen them a couple times that summer, but it never moved.
No, that summer is a little biker short.
Yes.
Yeah, so, like you got, man, a little biker short. I don't want to see no jogging pants come like April.
That cuffing season, it kind of, you know, help you get to know people a little bit better, and look at it in that way. Like,
hey, better get in shape mentally and physically if you don't get cuffed.
Yeah.
Anton, I got a question for you. Like, what questions should somebody ask so that they're not a victim of this cuffing season?
I think that you gotta more effectively vet the locations and the places in which you meet a lot of these people. A lot of people, it's funny because I know women that'll put good guys on the back burner just in case the bad guy or certain guys that she got her eye on don't work out. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing for guys. Like, I think it's for most people, there's somebody in your inner circle around you that really, really likes you and will really, really treat you the way that you feel like you would want to be treated. If you actually stop friend zoning people in order to ensure that you can go through your whole phase and, you know, doing things that may not necessarily be ideal as it relates to how you supposed to continue to develop. So if you just like, you know, take yourself out of the game mentally, and stop looking for somebody, stop setting traps and stop trapping, and more or less start focusing on building good friendships and relationships, I think that you'll no longer have that problem. So I don't think it's necessarily a question that people need to ask, because people are gonna lie anyway. They're gonna put their best foot forward and they represent.
I think you got a point there, Einstein, because I feel like, you know, you might be overlooking somebody that's absolutely a good guy. And I mean, I feel like that happened to me, and I was like, dang, you know, like, I encountered this person 4 times and didn't even think
folks still sour, huh?
I mean, seriously, you know what's so funny? Like,
for real.
I know guys that it kind of remind me of the movie Hitch, where like the guy, he really nerdy or whatever, but he a good dude, and literally a nuclear scientist, like writing dissertations. I know some guys that like make a lot of money, but you would never know it because they may not necessarily be as polished, right? And you can really come into his life and start improving on certain things that he's doing in order to make him a better representation of himself. But women overlook these dudes because they so busy. I don't know if they just like Instagram or social media is over sensationalized that, you know, you got to look like, you got to be a trapper, you got to be Future or somebody.
Now, like y'all know y'all overlook some good women. Y'all know y'all do all the time.
Same thing with women too. Women do it too.
I mean, maybe so.
Men overlook good women all the time. Because she don't dress. She don't dress a certain way. She don't look a certain way, or her hair. But she might be the most intelligent, successful, it's smart, fun to be around.
Well, maybe
and men overlook her all the time.
Women being hunters, go get yours then, you know?
Women ain't no hunters. See, men.
They are.
Here you go. Now women not hunters. I could have sworn we were just talking
about.
All
I'm going to say is that y'all overlook some gems all the time, baby. Walk on over. You walk on the stone, walk on over.
Man, we still dwelling on this? Damn, folks big sour. Damn, big mad over here. Damn, folks speaking passionate about
nobody.
Hey, if you guys just joined
high
us,
school, this ain't even an adult conversation.
No. Don't be trying to bring up women be overlooking men and y'all don't overlook us. Come on, man. Let's keep it real.
If you guys just joining us,
homecoming date from like sophomore year or something.
Hold on, Nix. If you guys just joined us, welcome to Lapeef Let's Talk. We just got through finishing up cuffing season. Moving on to our next topic, which is it ever okay to date your friend's ex? Is it ever okay to date your friend's ex? That's a good one, man. I've been out and I've seen people just looking at you, just trying to see if it's a hope, or if it ever will be a hope. But that's a real good question. Nix, is it ever okay to date your friend's ex?
Yeah, it's okay. It depends on the situation though. Like, is this squad or this just somebody that I used to work with or went to school with? Like, I mean, hey, it happens, man. Like, I think if it was like an intimate relationship or something like that, hey, it may be some hurt feelings or whatever. I think as a courtesy, and if that's my friend, I would ask. Put the onus on the friend to be like, tell me, make it plain for me how you feel. Because I think when we do this, we always assume like, oh, you just not supposed to do that. That ain't right. Then it's like, I admit, I don't care. And maybe I'm looking at it from my vantage point. I don't care. Hey, you could have it. It didn't work out. But the thing is, you know what? That's for that would be my opportunity to then say, this is the reason why I have an issue with it, or this is the reason why I really don't care. That happened like 20 years ago with different people, went in different directions. Cool. Because I mean, I hate to say it, especially, and this is more specific to black folks, it's almost 6 degrees of separation with black folks somehow, some way. Somebody's a play cousin. I went to school with such and such. Oh yeah, they gave me a ride here. It's always these like intersection points. So for me, I think if you have the conversation with the friend, allow them to make it plain, whether you ask them straight up, is this an issue? Yes or no. If it's not an issue, I'm letting you know I'm gonna pursue. If it is an issue, then you know what? I'll back off. I'll fall back.
But okay, so B Nix, and this don't necessarily reflect my position on this, but I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question of what you said just to play devil's advocate.
All right.
A lot of time, guys, let's just say, for example, somebody get out of a relationship, girls too, guys and girls, they get out of relationships and they're looking for strength, or they want to seem stronger than what they currently are. So, depending on how you ask the question, it may not be an accurate representation of how they feel about you necessarily taking that position going into another relationship.
They might not be honest.
Right. So how do you navigate around that?
If they don't know how to be honest with me and we supposed to be friends, that's messed up. It is. Like, I'm getting like, what more? And maybe I'm playing it from a different angle, but I gave you the floor. I gave you the opportunity to speak. And the thing is, if this is truly a friend of mine, I should be able to feel that I could be 100 with you. And if you're not 100 with me, then that's also another layer that, you know what, maybe we aren't friends on that level. And the thing is, if you do got an issue, bring it to my doorstep. Don't bring it to your friends, friends, such and such. And I got to hear about it like by way of somebody else. The thing is, if folks are truly friends, then you should be able to be authentic about how you truly feel about it. And maybe that may be the reason, the actual evidence that is needed to say, you know what, we really not friends like that. I think it happens, but folks aren't honest about that conversation. We just assume that like, oh no, I can't do that. I don't think we should limit ourselves. If there's somebody that I want to pursue, then I should, but I should still do a courtesy, a solid to my friend to let them know, hey, this is how I feel about it.
So you mean to tell me if you really like that woman, you're going to go? I mean, it don't matter if that guy, if he was married to her and they got a divorce and it's been about 5 or 6 years in between. If you like that woman, you're going to ask them, get on the courtesy and ask them before you hop into a relationship with that woman.
Yeah, you bring up another variable. Because then marriage, that's a little different. Because the thing is, that person has shared intimate moments together, and moments
they can do that without marriage. I mean, if somebody can be with her for 8 years, you don't think they shared moments, valuable moments, 8 years?
It depends on the time duration. Let's say we're talking about somebody that was together like 5 years, but I'm talking about me and this person like 20 years later or something like that. I think the time in our lives also make a difference as well. Like, to think about it, we're not super old, but are we talking about somebody from college or from high school? Or are we talking about somebody that I just literally dated last year? And then now you right there like, ooh, me next. That's different. So I think to me, it can be situational, but I still feel in support of what I said, that there still needs to be a conversation.
Anton, is it okay to ever date your friend's ex?
No, I've always taken a position that Like, I don't want nobody that my friend, and if I call you a friend, then like that's a relationship in itself, right? And I think that people take it lightly that we only tie the word relationship in a lot of instances, and this is not everybody, but I see it in a lot of conversation. Whenever somebody say relationship, people automatically tie that to somebody that you're intimate with or somebody that you may be talking to. But we don't tie the word relationship to the people that we closely involve ourselves with, such as our friends, right? And so I always evaluate what the dynamic of the relationship and what the level of respect would be for the person that I'm also in a relationship with as my friend. And so when I look at that, I'm always taking into consideration how they may feel. I just don't, I know it's variables. Like if that was just the jump off and you want her, fam, you can have her. Like we ain't tripping off that. We don't trip off that, nothing like that. But if this is something that somebody that you truly cared for, you know what I'm saying, that you've spent time telling some of your deepest, darkest secrets. If this is somebody that you've, entrusted with certain parts of your life or so on and so forth, I can't say that none of that stuff is going to even not come up. You know what I'm saying? Or that person may be conflicted or the dynamics or the circumstances. So for me, I'm not asking. It's literally almost 8 billion people in this world. I can find somebody else. I don't need to even take into consideration. Real quick? Go ahead.
Like I truly feel that life, even beyond relationship, life is about moments, right? And I feel like there are key moments in our lives, the good and the bad. And the thing is, I just don't want to live my life knowing that I sacrificed something that I really wanted. You know what I mean? And that could be like a car, a job, an outfit, a relationship. We don't know what the future may hold. So the thing is, if it's something that I'm real genuine about, that, you know what, I would like to pursue this person. I don't want to compromise what I want.
And that's fair.
Hey, Nix, can I interject? Can I interject?
Go ahead, Jared.
Nix.
Yeah, go ahead.
Under no circumstance can I date my friends. If I call them a friend, can I date their woman? Under no circumstance. That's just me. I don't, like Anton said, I'm not just agreeing with them just because I agree with them every show. But there are a lot of, no. There are a ton of women.
He challenged me a lot of times.
There are a ton.
Almost every show.
Hey, okay, that's another discussion.
Continue, please. I just want that to be noted on the record since we're recording.
I mean, I would have to agree with B. Dix on that.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. So, but your point, sir. Your point.
As I was saying,
I could never. We already heard it because we heard what Anton said.
Okay. Order. As I was saying, I could never date my friends. It just something about it. It just seems weird. It would just seem weird to me. It would just seem like it's a violation. It would be odd that we have to be under the same roof, like at a holiday event or a trip or an outing, that this man been with this woman for about 5 years, 10 years, whatever the case may be. It could be a year. I don't care. No. The fact that they've been together and he's my guy, I can't fuck with him. I don't care what life puts in front of me. It's just automatically there's something in me that just says she's automatically off limits. Even if I'm in the same room, I would never stare. I would never look. There's no thought that come across my head of this man's lady, wife, woman, or whatever the case may be. That's just how I operate.
Okay, so can I say, like, I get that point, but those are other variables you putting into it. That make it seem like I'm plotting. Right, like the thing is, like
a lot of ways people do plot
the whole
man,
time.
They sit back,
and then I'm just sitting back, just peeping the scene, like, So, like, I'm not coming from that lens. I'm really looking at it that, you know what, we've met later in life.
Later in life, it just happened. You just reconnect.
Right. And
so let me ask you another question.
I get what you're saying.
Let me ask you another follow-up question, and B-Nix. So, what if you asked him and he say, "Nah, she off limits"? Then what?
I think if it's really my friend, and the thing is, I think we need to also define internally, how do we define friends? Is this like a friend or is this somebody like you?
Well, I mean, you felt, considering the circumstances and the scenario, you felt like it was comfortable enough for you to actually go and have a conversation with and ask.
I would
assume that they pretty deeply involved in your life.
I would fall back out of respect of that friendship.
Yeah.
I would.
Tawana.
Yeah.
Same question. Is it ever okay to date your friend's ex?
I'm gonna say no, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because I learned in hard way. I like in high school, my friend, she liked this guy, and this is crazy because like she was not even dating this guy. This is just like a guy that she expressed interest in. We all knew she liked. We all knew it, and he liked me. You know, now it was always some reversal where like a guy would like her or whatever, right? It was something like that. But this particular guy, she really liked him really a lot. You know, she really wanted to pursue him, and he liked me. And then I felt like, okay, like, well, he don't like you. Y'all ain't start dating, so you know, whatever. And I think that it was just like it ruined a lot. It ruined our relationship for a little bit. I mean, we were able to heal from it and move on. But I feel like now I check to just make sure. Like my friend was just talking to this guy that I like. And I don't even know if they was like dating or even exchanged numbers. I just saw them talking in the spot that we were at. And he asked me for my number, and I checked with her before I even exchanged numbers with him. Because like I feel like if I consider you a friend, then I should respect you enough to, you know, make sure that like we on the same page about whatever it is. And so if I'm just doing that with guys that I don't even know if they just dated or they just dealt with in that way, then I'm definitely gonna do that, you know, make sure that I'm understanding the boundaries of men that she's dating. Because I feel like you cannot date nobody that I've dated. I'm sorry. My friends cannot mess with none of my exes. I'm putting that disclaimer out there. All my girlfriends, you already know. Like, don't even ask me. It's a no. You know what I'm saying? So, like, don't ask me because I don't even want my friends associated with nobody that I dealt with in the past. So, like, I just feel like even when I've seen that, you know, maybe they've had inappropriate conversations with somebody that I used to date or something like that, like, I'll be like, friend, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? You still trying to maintain a relationship? What's going on? Like, I need to know where your loyalty lies. So I absolutely feel like, no, I won't date nobody that my friend, you know, dated before, and we don't share homies. It ain't no thing like that. I just don't agree with that. But I mean, I understand where B Nix is coming from. Absolutely, because I feel like, yeah, like 15 years later, you know, you meet somebody and it may have been, you know, I ain't gonna say it's like, because my friends are like my sisters. You know what I mean? Like a lot of whoever I call my friend, they are also like family. They're at my family events. Like we hang out. We are blood without a title. So I don't have any friends where it's like, okay, we distant and we don't really have a relationship, but we cool. You know, so I feel like sometimes if you have a lot of those type of friendships, it could be easier to be like, I mean, I don't know him like that.
No, to that point, I mean,
right.
Whether we admit it or not, we have friends that let's say, think about if we replay the tape. If we take this back, at least let's go 10 years back, right? We think about who was our circle of friends 10 years ago. Are they currently our friends now? To me, unless you're talking about blood. Now, blood is a little different, you know, like just straight up family. But friends to me, it depends. Like to me, friends, all friends, you don't keep them for the entirety of your life. So again, it goes back to like the fact I sacrificed not pursuing the woman I wanted for this friend that technically I don't even talk to anymore. I can't even deem a friend 10 years later. So it's like, oh damn, I shortchanged myself. I mean, it's real, you know, and people move. So I'm also going through the variables. I mean, Tawana, I know you used to live in Florida. Same thing. I could say, hey, at that point in time, I didn't live in Chicago. So the thing is, those were my friends at that moment. Right. But guess what? When you move, things happen. We've seen it even when you move away, go to college, move on a different side of town, like go from the suburbs to the city, back and forth. The friends change. So that's the thing. We're not talking about family. So we're talking about friends. I cannot guarantee that all friends, you're going to retain them. The ones you still got, what's that old school saying? you could count your real friends on one hand, right?
Yeah.
If those friends are part of that one hand, then I think it contextualizes it a little bit more to say like, hey, I'm not even interested because you know what? I don't even look at you like that.
Yeah.
You more like my
their spouse
sister
is like
my guy.
Your spouse. Their spouse is like your sister.
Yeah. But that's why it goes back to like,
so you don't even look at them in the same light.
Somebody may say like, oh, but those are associates. Then at that moment in time, you may be like, no, that's my ride or die friend. When I was that person at that point in my life.
Yeah. Well, I had a friend that actually dated a guy that I dated, but she did ask me beforehand.
No, don't even ask me. But I consider my friends family.
She did. And it was a friend, and I'm going to tell you at the time, it was a coworker that I knew for just a few years. I hadn't known her for a long time, but we had developed a friendship. And she came to a birthday party, and a guy that I used to date was there. And he liked her. And me and him no longer had that. You know, we were cool. He was at the birthday party, but he wasn't like nobody that I was interested in being with no more. And he was like, he came to me, he was like, you know, I like your friend, you know what I'm saying? And then she was like, so why, you know, like, I like him. She didn't know, you know, about that. And so I told her, I was like, you know, I used to date him, but it's your decision. I don't care. You know what I mean? But we didn't have a relationship where I felt like that was even offensive. And I was actually happy that she came to me because I felt like she didn't have to say anything. She could have just went behind my back and she wouldn't have known that it was somebody that I used to date. You know, she just asked me like, hey, do you know this guy? Because I like him or whatever. And so, I mean, you know, it didn't bother me in that moment. So to be Nick's point, it's like, I mean, I've been knowing her for 2 years, so it's like, whatever. You know what I mean?
I consider a lot of people closer than blood. Like I don't. Yeah. And I guess this is just how I live my life. Like I don't identify the people that I consider family based off of my bloodline. Because there's some people in my bloodline that's you know, honestly, like they absolutely trash. And so, you know, family in that way don't necessarily resonate with me. But even, let's just say, for example, so like even you, B-Nix, right? Like I've just known you this year. If you was like, oh, I used to talk to Shorty over there, and then I was like, oh, okay. In my mind, just instinctively, like, she off limits. Like, it's a million other people that I can go in and grab or whatever. And I'm not saying necessarily that, you know, you shouldn't do whatever you do. However, my determination of whether or not I'm going to pursue somebody, like, that factors in just as much as any other thing, like whether or not she got her head right, whether or not she's on a certain level from intelligence level or whatever. Like that factors in.
It's so many variables to this. Because the thing is, if it was the opposite scenario, I'll say like, go forth, brother.
Yeah, you would say care. That,
like,
but I would not. But I wouldn't. That don't mean that I would pursue it because I got my own standard of whether or not I would still even embrace it.
No, but he might miss out on his you know, somebody.
I actually had a good friend of mine.
His person.
I had a good friend of mine that had messed around with somebody that I had messed with. But the thing is, it was like, all right.
And we're not, but we're not talking about somebody that we mess with, right? We just talk. We talk about.
People define relationships differently too. You know,
we talk about like, an ex though. Specifically, he said an ex. So when I think of an ex,
on how many months y'all was together.
No, when I think of an ex,
y'all was together, but really this was a cuffing season relationship.
No, but see, I don't look at if somebody would define somebody they talk to as an ex, then that means that at some point throughout their relationship, they were connected in a way in which they could possibly have seen themselves together for a long period of time. So for me, it's almost like, okay, so my bro, like my younger brother, like I consider him one of my best friends, and I'm not even looking at it along bloodlines, but that's my homeboy, right? His wife feels absolutely comfortable, like me and his wife hanging out. Like him and my chick, my wife, like they go out, they party. I would say when I brought my what is now my wife today, but when I brought her around before she became my wife or any of that, engaged, anything, they was hanging out. But I had the utmost confidence that he completely respected how, you know what I'm saying, my space. And that's why the relationship is as tight as it is. And so, and similar to a lot of my other homeboys, like I have no problem with any of that because it's completely set that we don't even look at each other's whatever, exes, current, whatever, in no way, shape, or form. There's no potential for us to even entertain that. So it's just almost like an unspoken thing that in my circle, we just don't move at all. Like,
you know, I got a question I want to pose.
You off.
So
you off limits.
Yeah, I get that. But you know what? Okay, so, and maybe JR, this may be one of your questions you may have had, but like, so why does this happen? Because the thing is, we're talking about like these things that are just basically sacred, right? You just know this is not supposed to happen. But let's be honest, this happens all the time.
It does, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but I don't agree with it. I mean, people cheat. I don't agree with that either. That happened all the time. You know what I'm saying? Just because people do something does not necessarily mean that it makes sense. Like, it's an unspoken thing for most people that you shouldn't cheat. Like, that's not something that's announced.
I just feel like when you at a certain point in your life, you kind of feel like, you know, hey, maybe y'all,
maybe y'all have something that
it's literally
so Tawana.
Billion people in the world, man.
Yes,
all right, so up in closing, you're saying that it is okay to date your friend's ex.
No, I said it's absolutely not because I felt like it's not. I don't do that because when I call someone my friend, they truly are like a sister to me or someone that I consider, you know, somebody like I don't date their exes and I don't date anybody that they've been involved with. And I think that it's not okay. If you have a relationship with someone like a friendship, like I said, the girl who I met and I worked with her for a few years and she dated somebody that I date. I mean, it's like, I don't know if I really consider that a betrayal. To me, it was like, whatever. But yeah, I wouldn't date anybody that my friend dated.
Hey, Anton, up in closing, your stance was that you would absolutely not date your friend's ex.
Nah, she don't have a chance. And if she thinks she do, like even if she explored the idea, like I'm gonna have to have a conversation with my homeboy. Like, yo, fam, are you still cool with her? Because you might need to, you know what I'm saying, reassess exactly what role she. Because, and again, like I also don't think that things are completely off limits forever. Like, let's just say, for example, you get into a situation and y'all break up, right? They your ex technically, right? But then it may be a moment or y'all might be going through something or whatever, so on and so forth. But that's like an extra wrench that we throw into the fire that kind of exaggerates things even more. And now not only are y'all even in a worse place as far as turmoil, but now we got to figure out where we stand as far as from a friendship perspective, because do we really even understand the dynamics of our friendship? And so my thing is, I just think that there's it's an easier way. I always evaluate whether it's an easier way for us to be able to figure out, you know, do I need to complicate this? Nah, because it's like literally 700,000 more people in this town right next over. So I'm going to just go ahead and hit that town and then I can do what I want. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have to start going into and questioning my friendship. I would never, and all of my homeboys already, they move the same way. And I wouldn't say nothing is wrong with them if they felt differently. They just wouldn't be my homeboys. But I would never kick it or even evaluate anything as it relates to speaking to an ex or kicking it with an ex that my homeboy had. I'm straight. I'm good.
Next, in closing, you said that if the feeling is there, if they got the potential of being in your future, you absolutely would date your friend's ex.
Yeah, but like tell the whole story what I said. That's the first conversation. Like you had like I'm just going clean in. Like, give me that. Give me all that about you. Like, fuck. Like that's not the approach I'm taking. It's just if it's something that I want and I want to pursue it, I'm gonna go get it. Now the thing is, am I gonna try to take? I'm not trying to wrestle. I'm not trying to arm wrestle it away from someone. But if the role was on the other foot where somebody came to me, I look at it that I don't care. And the thing is, like,
Next, you 100, Next.
We not together. I don't care.
Ain't he?
Because the
Well,
thing
he be looking at me funny.
To me,
Bitch
it's
is way
because you
more
know
savage
what?
than I am.
Low key on some real stuff. It's like one of those. It's an ownership thing. It's a property thing. The thing is, I don't have ownership over somebody that I'm not with. There's no strings attached. So the thing is, like, why am I still trying to claim something that I no longer want? But yeah, it's like, hold on, no, that's still me too. No, man. To me, that's an aspect of just greed. Like, hey, I have no ownership over that person on what they want to do.
Right.
So
I do.
Yeah.
why should I care? I don't like it. That person doesn't bring any value to my life.
I understand where you're coming from.
So why am I trying to put ownership onto somebody else?
No,
right.
Tawana, I don't think.
I understand where he's coming from.
No,
and
you know why,
I think
Tawana?
you got a point. I think you got a point though.
But Tawana, think about it. It's unspoken rules. Like if I
create
get
these rules, none of
divorced
this
from
is
my
written
wife,
down.
yeah, no. If I get divorced from my wife, I don't care if it's 20 years from now. My bro is never going to consider her. He gonna be like,
bro, but if my wife got if we got divorced, it's one of those like she's an ex. We may be cool, and if anything, there's been cases even when people mess around with like I will put you on. Because the thing is, some people are still
not to my
cool with other
ex-wife.
people. Huh?
I'm not putting you on to my ex-wife.
Ex, right?
I'm not putting you on to my ex-wife, fam.
They're ex.
I'm not about to be like, yeah, bro.
I didn't want to be
like
ex,
this in bed.
right.
You don't want to be with her no more. You don't want her, but you can't have her either. What type of selfish shit is that?
But you know what? Some people have a good relationship where they like friends. And they be like, they be looking each other up. I feel like you can't discount everybody.
So Tawana, what you're
saying is you're on the fence. Everything don't apply, Anton.
What I'm saying
you're on the fence?
What I'm saying is I definitely understand where B Nick's coming from now. Like I feel like I can kind of hear him.
Hey, up on that note, I'm just gonna tell you this. I don't agree. It's not worth it to me, you know, and I think that my friend would appreciate this thought. I'm just gonna stay away from them. They off limits. I don't want no parts of them. I'm good, and I'm ending on that note.
Nice.
And why are you calling me? Don't call me. Like, why you got my number?
Yeah, why she got your number? See,
that's what I'm saying.
You shady anyway, because you done probably gave her your number knowing that she gonna be on small shady.
Didn't even have your information, fam.
Hey, y'all coming at a whole nother angle, man. Like folks just sitting. And the thing is, like, I get that, but that's not where I'm coming from.
Anton then gave her his number on the slide. Talking about some, I don't like it all.
Straight in the corner plotting. I can't wait.
If you guys, if you guys just joining us, welcome to Lapeef. Let's talk. We just finished up our second topic. We on to the third topic, which is: do females ever admit when they lost a good man? It's a lot of good men out there. Do females ever admit?
Women?
Yeah, that's what I asked.
No,
women ever admit when they lost a good man? We often hear about the woman saying, hey, you done lost a good one. Like you don't know what you missing. You don't know what you lost. We hear that all the time, but I just want to hear from a different perspective, and I want to know: do females ever admit when they've lost a good man?
What do women?
Anton.
Okay, good.
I have talked to a lot of people in my life, probably half female, half male. I've only met one woman in my entire life that admitted that she lost a good man. And she just so happened to be my hiking partner. She's like 60 something years old, almost 70 years old, completely different person from me. I've only had one conversation with her about this in our entire lives. She's my hiking partner. And she was speaking about a guy that she lost probably 35 years ago, bro. So to answer your question, I never hear women talk about how they lost it. Even if they were the ones that, like, let's say that they did something like overtly wrong or extremely bad for the relationship. They got caught cheating or whatever like that. I never hear that as a part of the conversation that a woman has lost a good man from the woman that actually lost a good guy. I never hear it, bro. That's never a part of the conversation. That's never a part of our culture. We never discuss it. You don't see it on social media. It's either a guy lost a good girl or the relationship just didn't work out. It's never she lost a good man. I never hear that, bro.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I don't think I ever heard a woman actually admitting that she lost a good man. However, have heard of men possessing like great qualities. That's something that I have heard, and that they, when they look back, that they wish that things would have worked out, but they never admit that he was a good man. Never heard those actual words.
They remix it.
Yeah. Be next. Do females ever admit when they've lost a good man?
Yeah, I think so.
You think, or
do.
you know?
Well, I would say I know based on, I guess, my small sample size.
So you have women that have actually admitted that they lost a good man.
Yeah.
You sure?
But I think it's not like somebody's broadcasting this. Like, I wouldn't either. But I think when you talk to people and you know, we all have these life conversations. And much as I kind of earlier I talked about, like, no one wants to have them, but the coulda, woulda, shoulda conversations, right? What I could have did, what I would have done, or what I should have done. All those, like the what if game, right? We all play that game with ourselves. But yeah, we're not friends now, but I think we used to be friends where we were talking. It was one of those where I think from the perspective she spoke about on who she was then versus who she is now, you know, like some people look at it, they're like, man, you know, somebody say like, hey, I done calmed down a lot. You know what I mean? Where it's like, hey, you know, some people, I don't want to say like they're naturally angry, but you know, like you look at it that, hey, I did go 0 to 100 with situations that I could have probably handled differently. Or I did have, because in this situation it was one of those like youth, right? Where it's like, hey, I was mean. I understood you was good, but it was like, hey, I wanted what I wanted. Some people aren't at a point in their life that they want to compromise or even work out things, right? Some people is like, either is what I said is what I said. And I think that since we're talking about women, I did have a conversation with someone that did talk about it from that lens that, you know what, I am more calm. I am more open. I am more understanding. I do try to not dictate a situation or a conversation, because I think that you wear people out that way. So I think that there are women that will talk about it. But the thing is, I think from this perspective, this was like one of those looking back on who I used to be type of situations after they have now kind of arrived at being a better, more mature person. I think that if you go through these transitions in your life, you could then look back in the rearview mirror saying like, yeah, that person, hey, Brandon, that version of Brandon, yeah. And I think women do that too. But that's talking to someone who has now transformed themselves into a new version of themselves. If you still the same person you was 10 years ago, you're never going to have that conversation, because that means that you're right and everyone else is wrong. It has to be a level for anyone. But if we talk about women, an aspect of humility to be able to say, you know what, I messed that one up. I own it. But the thing is, who's going to broadcast that? It has to be with somebody that you trust to have that conversation with. Because that person that they messed over, they probably don't even know that, you know what, this person is now remorseful, because it's a pride thing that we hold on to.
Tawana, do women ever admit that they lost?
Before we go to Tawana, and I do want to hear from Tawana, obviously, but did she actually say she lost a good one, or did she just say I should have done things a little differently? Because it's two different. It's a different perspective when you say I lost a good one versus, you know what, I could have done things a little differently.
I don't know. Shit. I don't know. I thought like they were both in the same. I mean, it's like,
no, it's a difference. I think it's a difference.
Well, ask me the question again.
Okay, so like I'll give you an example. Like
okay.
A relationship could have not worked out with me and X woman, right? This woman right here. However, you know, I could go back and say, man, but you know what? I could have treated her differently. I could have operated differently. I was a little crazy and whatever, so on and so forth. But I'm not necessarily saying I lost a good woman. I'm just saying that, you know what, I need to make some adjustments in who I am or whatever, but that's not necessarily admitting that they were a good person that I lost. I think it's a difference. I can go on the basketball court and be like, man, I should have crossed him over, or I should have took more jumpers. But that don't mean that I'm blaming myself for losing the game. Like, You know,
all right. Well,
it's a difference.
You know what? I own it. I mean, no names, of course, but it was a former relationship of mine where she was just like, yeah, I was mean. You know, like, yeah, I didn't care. I was reckless. You know, so the thing is, it was from the aspect of like, hey, I messed this up with you. But the thing is, to the point we was talking about earlier, there are people, as far as in a relationship, well, used to be in a relationship that are now exes that still coexist, right? That could still have a frank conversation with each other. So that was really a frank conversation that we had. You know, we all do the what if scenario, right? And then it'd be from that conversation, what kind of erected from it was that she had messed up but I could have messed up too. But the initiator of why it didn't work at that point in time was like, yeah, it was just the fact, yeah, I was mean to you. And probably had, and the thing is, it had nothing to do with me. A lot of people be having other issues going on where it's like, I'm just taking it out on you. It's not even about you. But the thing is, everybody got their own tolerance and stuff. So that was the part, like the mature version of her and me years later, we were able to chop it up and then talk through it like that. So it was like a missed opportunity.
Gotcha. Twan, I'm coming to you. Do women ever admit that they lost a good man?
You know what? As rare as this happens, I believe that women definitely, as rare as it happens, that we just miss out on a good man. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that we don't admit it. What I'm saying is that as rare as it happens that women miss out on good men, I believe that women absolutely take ownership for like, hey, you know what? He was a good guy and I just wasn't ready for it at that time. But I'm the type of person that believe in paths and I believe in like faith and I believe in like, that wasn't your fate. Like if y'all don't work out, he's meant for someone else and y'all need to move on. And I don't believe in wasting people's time and being with somebody that you don't necessarily want to be with. But I do think that we own our shit. Like women, we know when we have a man that's a good man that, you know, and good is subjective. Let's keep that real. It's based on how you perceive a man to be. And good doesn't always mean good to every woman. So, you know, y'all think that a man, you know, sometimes a man can be too consistent where it's almost like he a little bit like, I don't know, like crazy. Like, you know, he's a little bit obsessive, almost stalkerish, right? And y'all be like, well, he always there. He always in your life. He doing everything. But it's like, well, he don't give me no time to move and breathe. Like, yeah, he can be smart, but he can be too damn smart when he condescending. And he's always criticizing and over analyzing every situation. And it's like, dude, you're not the right man for me. So good is not always good to everybody. Y'all need to understand that. And so just because he's a good man don't mean he's a good man for me. Maybe I need a man that's a little bit more chill and relaxed. And maybe, you know, just because you consistent don't mean that you gonna necessarily jail with me. So I feel like, yes, we know when we left, when we know when it's a man that was like, man, he was so cool. Like he was a good guy. He was smart. He was intelligent. Like he was easygoing. You know what I'm saying? But like he didn't push me. And I felt like maybe I could find something better. And I think that it's nothing wrong with a woman feeling that way and feeling like, well, hey.
That is not what we talking about.
Yes, that is what we're talking about. We talk about a woman who feels like she has, no. And I'm not saying that we don't think that, you know, we don't know when we lost a good man. But I mean, like, I'm you know, I'm looking at my mental Rolodex. I don't think I've lost a thing. You know what I mean?
Nope, that's not, no. Okay,
saying.
so
take
yourself out of it.
Good men. No, it's not just me. It's women in general.
Well, let me ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a follow-up question.
Let me tell you, women, we don't just be like, you know.
Okay, so.
He's so good to me. I'm gonna leave his ass. You know, I can't stand his good.
But let me ask you a follow-up question.
That I need him to do. We don't do that.
The same way I asked B Nix a follow-up question of what you just said. So I'm gonna ask you a follow-up question, right? Because and that's why I said take yourself out of it, because you got girlfriends, you got friends, and all that other type of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think that everybody has some level of regret in certain things that they've done in their life, and I think that women are open to having conversations about things that they regret in their life outside of men. I think that there's men that women could have been in a relationship with, and they look back and say, man, I messed that up. But I don't think that they admit it. So in your circle of friends, not just you, but in the women that you've all had conversations with, did they at any point say, I regret not being in a relationship or continuing a relationship with him?
Yeah.
And not for their own self-growth and all of that, the women's empowerment thing, but just straight up, man, I messed that up.
Like,
you've heard women say that?
No, I felt like, I've had friends that's like, he was good to me. He treated me well. He did this, he did that. But like, I was like mentally connected to somebody else or not ready for this. Like, I've had friends that's been in situations like that and actually have admitted to me. I don't know if they admitted on a broadcast or Facebook, but they said it to me, like, hey, friend, like, I feel like I messed up with this one. You know what I mean? Like, I want to, I don't want to go back to him, but I want to meet somebody else that's similar, right? So I feel like, yeah, I have had friends that's done that. So I don't know why y'all saying that, like, women don't admit they wrongs. Like, women do, but do we have? I mean, I have more friends that, have dudes that played them and disrespected them, and they regret dealing with those dudes. Like, I have more friends that have those scenarios than I have friends that missed out on good dudes. That's what I'm saying. In the rare, this question is so leading. That's why I don't like answering these questions, because I'm like, you already trying to.
It's a direct, but it's a direct question.
It's an implication.
Do women admit when they mess up?
No, it's an implication that women don't, and I don't like that. Can I feel like it's already leading into the code. We don't do it.
But can I go back to but what Tawana mentioned was a good point, where it's like, again, moments, right? What the thing is like, hey, that's not what, the woman may have wanted at that moment. So not to say that, because the thing is, when we say, I mean, not we, but I'm assuming if a woman does say like, hey, I messed something up, we're looking at it based on like future tense. Like, we're looking at it based on present day of where the person is, who this person turned out to be right now. I think, jokingly speaking, even though we're not talking about celebrities, wasn't it one of those cases where I think Pepper from Salt and Pepper was saying that about Will Smith, that she tried to get with Will Smith, shot him down or whatever like that? Because at that moment, based on, that's why I mentioned earlier, youth and maturity, that's not what she wanted. Not to say it was something bad that necessarily happened. It just, the timing wasn't in it. Even with the example I gave, it was a youth thing, but also it was a situation at hand, the timing, the moment. A lot of times you may click with somebody, but you might not, based on just the moment in your life and where you're at.
Yeah.
And nobody is disputing any of that, what y'all saying. I agree wholeheartedly with both you and Tawana, Phoenix. However, that is not the question. We are not deep diving into the reasons as to how you feel and whether.
Yes, women do it. They do. They do admit that they lost a good man.
And next, the question is, do women ever admit when they've lost a good man?
Yeah, and we gave both of us, Tawana and
several examples.
Gave answers.
That was you. Okay.
And I gave you supporting
information. I know JR need to add. JR need to give his opinion, so I'm gonna just step back for a second.
Hey,
I feel like I've had people who said to me, like, this guy, he was so good to me in college. You know what I mean? Like, and they felt like, and this is just kind of like random girl talk in the lunchroom. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've had people tell me all the time.
Yeah, what are y'all expecting? Like a Facebook post?
You know, that remind me. It almost remind me of like a gambler. Like, they'd be like, they could go out and they could lose a bunch of money. They'd be like, well, I was just gonna spend that on this anyway. I just wasn't ready to, move in this direction. I'm like, fam, no, you lost. Like, you could have been a winner.
Well, maybe they just wasn't. Maybe that.
But you lost.
Wasn't ready for them. So.
How come people are just not direct? Be like, yo, I messed up. Like, they got to give you know what? I was in a time in my life where I was just like,
yeah, but the thing is, like, okay,
maybe they didn't mess up.
You're assuming as if the person that they were with, they're still on talking terms. The thing is, what I'm gonna do? Hey, I haven't talked to you in like about 5 years, but I just wanted you to know I got this L that I'm trying to own right now.
No, but there's a narrative that happens a lot amongst men where they be like, yeah, you lost a good girl. Like that is almost a thing in society where they like.
Oh, I know I did. I know.
Because
But
y'all
that's what I'm
do.
saying. Like that.
Because
that's
y'all
a part
do.
of-
Y'all
Listen,
most of the time
no,
y'all
no,
Right, so that's the reason that's not this question.
girl.
The
We're
question
not
is,
talking
do
about
females,
whether
do
it's
do
true or
women,
not.
Women.
We're saying that
do
And I
women
told
admit?
you,
to have
in the rare cases that it happens, yes. Yes.
we're willing to have
Okay.
the
But I
conversation
think we
openly.
answered, like, bro, we answered the
We
question.
answered
and I'm
it.
not even a woman, but I mean, I just based it on my example.
All right, so you
where
said
I think
yes.
there are
You said they
cases,
do.
but you didn't ask how many. You
You
asked
said they
yes
do,
or
right?
no, binary.
You said they do,
And-
right?
Do I? Oh, you the first. You asked me first, man.
I'm just
Second.
trying to close it out.
What you taking
You
notes?
said they do.
I think that y'all
I might be.
Maybe,
I might.
maybe you don't surround yourself with enough women who are self-aware, and so that's why you don't hear women who tell you that they made a mistake and that they,
I'm
you
just
know,
trying to figure out
I've
what's the
coached
proper
enough
and that's
for
what it is.
I've heard it all the
What's the
time.
form?
I hear it all the time.
Women, so why you sitting here on this podcast talking about
No.
women don't admit?
But they dance around it. They dance
No, they
around it.
don't.
They don't
Do
admit
they
it.
dance around it, or do
They don't
admit
say it. They don't say, "Hey,
Yep, you're right, Jr.
I lost out." Like they say things like, for instance, I had somebody reach out to me like years ago and say, "Hey, now that I look back, I wish we were together. I wish that things had worked out."
Yeah, of course. Folks looking at
I
you
hear-
now. You got the little Lapeef. You got the podcast. You got the clothing line. Of course. Yeah, folks in their feelings. They probably looking
Like
at
she
you
clout
right
chasing.
now.
Clout
Nick's is
chasing.
not all about that. Nick's.
Clout
chasing ass.
I had to give myself a little bit more credit. I'm a great man. I'm a great man.
That too.
And I bring a lot of value to my table. So
And you know how many?
like with
Yeah,
that being
you know how
said,
many women
with
did
that being
that?
said,
right now, no,
I can huh? Yeah.
You know how many people
Hey,
sour
it is
right
what it
now?
is.
Like, damn.
You know
It is
how
what
many
it
men
is.
call and say that stupid stuff? It's like, dude,
Say what? Say what?
Oh, I wish we would have worked out, and I
Yeah,
want us back, and
yeah,
I
but
want
then
us
you
to
be
work
like,
out.
but-
I'm like,
but
come on,
baby, I done
dude, get the
changed.
hell on.
Right, but we hear it
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
time. I
so-
just want to try to twist
Women
it up a
do
little
it.
bit. I want to ask if the women do it.
Yes, women do it.
Okay.
We do it all
All
the time.
Okay.
No,
So-
they
Not a
don't.
taboo
No, they
thing.
don't. No, they don't, Jr. You know what they do? And I've coached
We don't
them.
think that we missed out on a bad thing because
Yes,
most
y'all
of the
do.
time
Yes,
y'all
y'all
are
do.
terrible.
What it
Most of
is,
the
Jr.
time
And
you're not good.
I've
And so
coached
we don't
enough
need
women
good
to
men.
know. I've
You know
coached
what?
enough
All right.
women to
Hey,
know.
Anton always make like I hate when you do this. What data you got?
Right.
How many
Like,
focus
we don't
groups
need
you
good
done led?
men.
How
Women
many
are
focus groups you done
I've
led?
coached-
Buddy act like he's
Women
sitting
are
on Survey
rational.
Monkey data.
We're rational.
I've-
We don't need
I've
good
coached-
men.
No,
Most
and
of us
see,
are not north.
I'm glad you said that, Tawana, because that's exactly what I was going to speak towards. I've coached enough
I
women
thought
to
we were
know
wrapping
that
up this topic. Oh,
we
in all
are.
honesty,
And
like,
I've coached enough women to know that they rationalize within themselves to
Coach.
make themselves feel better about the circumstance.
Do they know that you calling their conversation coaching?
Oh, they know. They come to me because they,
You know what? I
you
forgot
know what's up.
I forgot
You
you're
know
a
what's
savant.
up.
You're a man
But
of many
but
things.
the point is
Anton.
that the reason why I'm able to make a breakthrough as far as them going to the next level in their life is because we get them out of the rationalization phase in order to make sure that the first step to
You
any
manipulate
problem.
them.
Yeah,
Hold on,
like
hold on.
You
book
make
of
them
Anton,
believe
right?
that
they
The
can.
book of Anton.
You manipulate the women
No,
to
this
make
is
them
functional.
No.
the way you
This
think.
is the standard.
Come
This is a
on,
standard
Coach
in-
James,
across
man.
life in general. The
Listen.
first step to going to the next level is to admit your faults within
Wait,
yourself.
where are you quoting this from?
Who is that a fault?
That's
of?
applying to anything. You can
You
apply it
have
to
said that's
addiction.
a fault.
You can
Step-
apply it to
step one.
addiction. You can apply it to your financial success.
Because I
your
let a
life.
person go
The
that I
first, the
wasn't
first
good
step in going to the next level is first admitting the faults within the current phase
That ain't
All right,
that you're
what's
in.
step 2 then, brother? What's
What's
step
step
Okay, y'all
two?
got it.
Now I forgot you write down your notes before the show anyway.
No, I don't.
You be having your little cliff notes. And
I know
stuff
the
sitting in
difference
front of you.
between guys and girls is that, or
How
men
many
and
coaching
women,
sessions you
is
done had
that
this year?
the difference between men and women, when you're having direct conversations with them, when you one-on-one and there's nobody else looking and there's nobody trying to impress each other, is that men are more forthcoming in being direct in what it is that they've done wrong. And it's easier to work with them and get results quicker because you're able to more quickly identify the problem and
Bullshit.
solve for it. Whereas when I deal with women, a lot of times they rationalize their decisions and they like,
Men have
well,
men-
I was at a specific place in my
Men have
life,
admitted
all of
something.
this other type of stuff. And it's like, okay, So when we get past that, so what was the
Men
issue? Well, I was feeling a certain type of way. I don't know if I feel this way. Oh, okay. So when we get past that, so what's the issue? When you start removing the layers, and then eventually
JR, like, I'm done.
And then eventually they're like,
are you serious, JR? Really? Men admit their flaws? Are you kidding me?
No, that wasn't the question. JR, what was the question again, sir?
That is such bullshit.
How many men have you coached?
Even you know that's the bullshit. Like,
how many men have you coached? What? I'm just wondering.
Hey, I ain't coaching nobody, man.
How many men have entrusted you by spilling how they feel about their own circumstances?
JR, in closing, do your thing.
You know
what? No, JR, D-Nix is always in simp mode because he's trying to run for president. And he makes sure that he supports this narrative that is equal amongst the board.
I forgot you be having your audience on here and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's differences between women. I understand how Tawana feels. I understand how Tawana feels because Tawana is a woman. So she's speaking from a place that women.
I got it.
I don't understand.
I'm always going to speak
the selfish behavior behind D-Nix. Why are you protecting these people? And they are adults.
These people.
These women, why are you protecting these women that don't need protection?
Bro, you see, that's the thing. You know what? You asked me a question. I gave you the answer.
Right.
Between you and JR, y'all never like none of my answers.
Damn, how I get thrown into this shit?
Dude, we've been on this show together since the pandemic, since March, when it first kicked off. And y'all two brothers still...
Hey.
They don't understand other.
With that being said, if you guys haven't, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Hey, Anton, you better be lucky we don't live in the
let's
same
talk. Lapeef, let's talk.
It gets to a point where I'm face to face.
Just go onto YouTube, type in Lapeef, let's talk. Hit that subscribe. We appreciate you guys. We finishing up this topic.
And just kidnap you.
We thank you guys for joining us with Lapeef, let's talk. We on to our last topic, which is diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Diversity and inclusion in the workplace. What is diversity and inclusion? I'm going to tell you guys a little story. This is a true story, by the way. A little over a year ago, during the one-on-one meeting with the directors of the company, she was asked what project she wanted to work on next. She said she would be interested in working on diversity and inclusion initiatives. And she was told that it wasn't a priority at the time. Fast forward to today, she just had an annual performance review and was told, given her interest in diversity and inclusion, they would like her to be at the forefront on their next diversity and inclusion endeavor. Given all the attention surrounding social justice and racial equality, do companies feel pressure to focus on diversity and inclusion in their workforce? B-Nix.
Based on a current state, yes. Because the thing is, sadly, I think they know that this is now impacting their bottom line. This is hurting people in the pockets because of everything that's happening. If you was to ask us that question last year, I don't think there would have been a value. We all know about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But the thing is, we also need to open up our lens. When we think about diversity, we always assume that we're just talking about race. How many Black people was hired? How many Latinx people was hired? How many Asian people was hired? It's not even about race. It's about all aspects. It's about diversity of gender. It's about breaking down barriers of ageism at the workplace. For far as you being too young, too old, same thing. It's about access to opportunities, looking at your policy. To me, always look at it, it starts with the mission, right? If you don't have anything that talks about your mission that speaks to diversity, equity, and inclusion, then you really not about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Companies always talk about oh yeah, we have this initiative or this task force. That's just smoke and mirrors. The thing is, you put a group of people together and then there's no actions that come from this. So the thing is, it goes back to how you articulate it. What is it old school saying? If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. If you don't got it out the gate that this is the mission of your company, then you really not about it. If you do have it in the mission, what are your goals? And really how you using this to really be transformative in changing or enhancing your organization. So the thing is, looking at policy, looking at the way people are hired, looking at the way people are actually penalized at work. You know, you think about like, are people of a certain group identity, are they given more harsher punishments than others? Do the policies that mean, does it even marginalize certain people? Dress codes, hairstyles, everything like that. So when we talk about diversity, I think companies need to look beyond just race. It's bigger than race. Diversity is really all things. It's not unique to just like a particular color. So to me, it goes back to companies right now, they're invested, but I think there's also because of political pressure, but I think it's more timing for them. Something as simple as Juneteenth, right? So the thing is, this showed this past June where companies stood on really about these issues about equity and diversity as it relates to Black folks. Do you acknowledge this day? Do you not acknowledge it? And if you do acknowledge it, are you providing any educational workshops and understanding around it? Do they get the time off? Do they not? Because we have other days that we get off, but then it's kind of like, well, why? Why are we doing this? And honestly, I would ask everyone, not right now, but come next year, is Juneteenth going to be celebrated at your company every year, or was this just kind of one-time thing just because of the civil unrest? That's the point where you get to see the true actions behind your company. Is it sustainable?
Hey, Tawana, I had the same question. Now, imagine the scenario, true story. You know, she was trying to bring the company, she was trying to make the company aware that they needed to focus on diversity and inclusion. Given all the attention surrounding social justice and racial equality, do companies feel pressure to focus on diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think to her point, they didn't really decide to address the diversity and inclusion issue until there was something socially that happened within the communities and there was a demand for it, right? So I feel like companies that I've worked for, and I have, worked for predominantly Black companies for most of my career, and even the career that I'm in now is, predominantly African Americans that work in my department. So I think that diversity and inclusion has always been a part of our entire structure. And inclusion, like B. Nick said, it extends beyond race. It's your sexual preferences. It is your heritage. Celebrating not just Black History Month, but Cinco de Mayo and Asian Heritage Month, and just being inclusive in all the different races that exist, and being aware that there are different people in this world and there's different things going on, and I love that we have this specific like department, and it's compartmentalized, and we have a department that's dedicated specifically to telling us about things that are going on in different cultures, in different communities, in different, around Chicago, around the world, and just being inclusive in our communities. Because even when we have, pictures of professionals, it's always gender basis, right? Like a man is wearing a suit, women, we may be wearing a suit, but it may be a dress, right? It may be a skirt, it may be different things. And so we don't often leave room for, people who identify as transsexual or people who identify as lesbian, and, they may not want to wear a dress, right? Or people who identify as gay and he may not want to wear a pantsuit, a three-piece pantsuit. So like, we don't really leave room for people who are professionals that really don't identify as our sexual orientation. So inclusivity is extends beyond just a race or how you identify yourself, ethnicity and heritage. It's so much more, and a lot of companies have dropped the ball on being that emphasis in diversity in the workplace, and a lot of people are criticized for some of the cultural things that they do just in their culture, and it has absolutely nothing to do with being a professional, being in a workplace, and there's no code of conduct surrounding it. But people do have a lot of criticism surrounding, your behavior and the way you decide to, maybe food you eat, or the way you want to dress, or What if your religion doesn't allow you to wear your hair in public? And so you may want to cover it up. And so a lot of people kind of criticize those individuals. So I think that emphasis is always necessary, but because of all of the movements that are happening, a lot of times, companies need that push. They need that motivation in order to make sure that they are complying with, making sure people have an inclusive environment and that they feel comfortable in their workplace. And shame on that company for not letting, her, create some sort of diversity plan and some sort of inclusion plan that would have got ahead of this whole entire movement, and she wouldn't have never even had to change anything, which is like my company. We already had diversity plans in place. We already addressed those issues. So it was no need to adjust based on whatever's happening socially. We already made sure that the environment was inclusive and that we embraced other cultures and understood, how diverse America is in general. And so if you are ignorant to that, if you're ignorant to the fact that there are a lot of different people and diverse communities in America in general that you need to embrace, then you're going to have an issue with bringing diversity into the workplace and inclusion in the workplace. So I absolutely feel like it's necessary. Companies feel the pressure now, and so they're being like reactive instead of proactive. And so I don't agree with that because I feel like they're just doing a filler, right? Like just trying to fulfill a requirement right now and not really and truly embracing the whole entire atmosphere of, being inclusive and being diverse and just really making sure that that is the type of environment that they're fostering. I think that a lot of people are just reacting to whatever's happening out in the world and trying to appease people instead of really believing in the mission and believing in that. Because I believe that that's something that we should look at and that is important in the workplace.
Hey, Anton, I couldn't imagine going to my annual performance review and they gave me a 5, but only later to find out that I was supposed to get a 3, but they only gave me a 5 due to everything that was going on. Given all the attention surrounding social justice and racial equality, do companies feel pressure to focus on diversity and inclusion in their workplace?
So I'm going to, and I think I'm just going to speak once and then let it be because I'm completely the opposite of B-Nix and Tawana, not even just for the sake of this podcast, but because I really believe this, right? I'm going to speak once and I'm going to validate what I'm saying and why I'm saying it, and then I'm just going to leave it at that. So I'm speaking from the perspective of a person, obviously, that come from, I was literally raised in the hood too, right? I'm also speaking from the perspective that worked his way all the way up to the top. So I was in executive leadership of Fortune 500 companies. And I'm also speaking from the perspective of a person that not only was an active owner of companies that hired people, because I was the person that 100% owned the company, but also as an active investor and a minority owner, and sometimes a majority owner of startups and businesses that are already existing. I can't understand for the life of me, for example, why sexual orientation is something that needs to be captured in the workplace, for example. Let's just say, hypothetically, I have this Fortune 500 company. I'm there to do a job, not have conversations about my sexual orientation. My sexual orientation has nothing to do with my ability to be able to close a mortgage, for example. Why is that something that needs to be discussed in the workplace? I don't understand how. And the other issue that I have is we only discuss diversity and inclusion because we're Black. And I don't see companies, for example, there's a specific company that I have friends that consult for that I chose not to participate in because it's 100% all Black. Guess what? There's no conversations about diversity and inclusion because they all look like each other. It's reverse racism. Like it's a reverse. We don't require from ourselves the thing that we require from other people. Another quote or something else that was stated that is not accurate is that companies are benefiting as a result of diversity and inclusion, or marketing the diversity and inclusion that they have within their company. And I would say it's the complete opposite. The overwhelming majority of these companies that decide to politicize or take up political causes that's championed by either side are suffering. For example, you can take Nike. Sales have fallen absolutely off the cliff. You can take any one of these NBA games, NFL games. Guess what? This finals and this playoffs, although people have nothing to do and are less inclined to actually get out because it's a pandemic, the viewership is down more than 68%. Like, people are taking a stance against people doing these things that are not only not championing diversity and inclusion, but is excluding people as a result of you trying to meet a certain criteria in order to satisfy what we think is a certain group of people. So, for example, I see within one of the things that people are not addressing, because it's not the popular subject right now, is that they're discriminating against Asians in college settings because they say that their grades are too high, and that the overwhelming majority of them are getting in all of the slots because they have achieved all of the academic progress needed and exceeded that in order to get admitted into the highest universities, whereas we feel like there should be more people that look like us on campus. And so as a result, universities are saying, okay, we can only let so many of this group into this specific organization, such as Harvard and the Yales, so on and so forth. They're only letting so many Asians in, and they're saying because we need to fulfill this particular quota, not how can we have conversations about how we can improve the scores amongst these particular, Black people or whatever like that. That's not the conversation. The conversations are, why aren't more Black people in this particular organization? So as a person that has built companies from scratch and hired people, I would say that I was 100% focused not on color, not on racial bias or genders. I wasn't focused on whether you was a man or a woman. I wasn't focused on your sexual orientation. I was going to implement policies that said, if you don't like my company, you can go and do what you want to do. You don't have to work here. You don't even have to apply. You can choose to go and build your own company. You can put your own money up. You can build whatever you want to do and do whatever you want to do. But what you're not going to do is walk up in here and tell me how you going to wear your hair. This is the standard. This is what I expect because this is what I want in my specific company. This, for example, is a restaurant. I want you to have your hair wrapped up because we don't want hair in the food. I don't care if you want to show off how purple and big your hair is at that specific day. I have a standard because I'm trying to meet expectations set by the health and administration, set by the codes within my specific county that says when an inspector come in, they want to see certain things and I don't want to get penalized financially as a result of it. I'm setting standards based off of expectations that I'm trying to get from this company that I invested my own money in. You don't get to come in and say what you gonna do in my company. I put my own money up. I invested in it. So now you say just because you work here or you get a job, which you can choose to not work here or not, nobody is forcing you. It's not forced labor. You want to determine how I'm going to run my company. No, you are more than welcome to set your own company and determine what you want to do in the places that you want to invest your own money in. So when you see a lot of these diversity and inclusion, I do think that there is benefits to making sure that we are familiar and embracing other cultures. I do think that there's benefits to working with people that don't look like you. But what I don't want to do is discriminate against other people as a result of me trying to meet a quota and saying that people can do what they want and determine how I'm going to run my company or how I'm going to move in my as an executive person of leadership in this particular company based off of the fact that you feel a certain way and not based off of logic that we are supposed to be inclusive of everybody across the board. Don't matter what color you are, don't matter what gender you are, don't matter, what your sexual orientation is. I expect you to perform a certain way. If you meet that criteria, if you are great, if you're awesome, I want you, not because of what you look like, but because of the content of your character and what you bring as value to the company. That's what the conversation should be. And you see in a lot of these companies suffering because they picking sides instead of being neutral and being strict on their policies as it relates to what their standards are, instead of bending based off of how people feel at that particular time. So that's my thoughts on it from that perspective. I don't agree with it whatsoever. I think that we should be more focused on improving people's lives and showing where we can make progress in areas where there's a large group of people that are suffering. But I don't think that we should have basically reverse discrimination against people that may not necessarily see it the same way you do because they're not the same color as you.
Hey, B Nix, do you agree with Anton when he says that companies are losing on focusing? No, you don't, Tawana?
No.
Why?
I mean, but it don't matter how we feel about that. We can.
That's not true. It's not true.
Margins.
Inclusion is exactly what he said. It's making sure that everyone, regardless of all those things that we've listed, feel like they can come into an atmosphere, and that does not exempt people from the rules. It does not say, oh, because you're in this class and you relate to this individual, that you don't have to follow the rules and that you don't have to perform the duties on the same level that another person. No, that's not what
it shouldn't be a class. That's my whole argument.
No,
it shouldn't be classes.
It is a class because there's different people who exist in this world, and so if a transsexual person comes into an organization, they're not going to look like me or you, they may, but they may not, right? So are we creating a room in the space for another type of professional who may come in and they may not necessarily fit a mode of what we believe professionalism is, but they may be an amazing employee? Are we going to automatically discriminate because they don't fit into a gender role or into a particular?
But see, that's not my argument. And I never said that we should discriminate.
That's what
nobody said that we should discrimination should not exist, is my point. But
right.
My point is that it doesn't become an issue until you make it an issue. Most companies have an HR policy that says we should not discriminate. That has nothing to do, for example, if you are a transsexual person and you come in and saying, I'm a transsexual person. I don't go into work and say, I'm a heterosexual person. That should not be the conversation. We're here to close mortgages. We're here to sell burgers. We're here to do whatever we got to do, but we're not here to have conversations about your sexual orientation. That's not what it is.
The rules exist for a reason. It's because people have been discriminated against in the past. And that's why inclusion and diversity is an issue. And that's why we need to have emphasis on it. And that's why people have made such a huge, argument about it. Because there's been multiple instances that are beyond the HR control, which beyond the,
whatever. I noticed you just completely glossed over the reverse discrimination, how a lot of people don't get the opportunities that they've rightfully earned and that they get pushed out of the conversation as a result of us trying to push a narrative and support this whole politicized movement that also discriminates against people that may have rightfully earned that conversation. We just completely glossed over that. We don't even address that. You don't even talk about that whatsoever.
No, they managed it. Yeah.
Hey, Nix. I want you to chime in on this conversation. And what I'm hearing is that Anton is saying that it's reverse racism. And I'm here to want to say that there are some unfair things happening, and that's the reason why these rules are put into place. Is there a way that you think that we can kind of balance this all out? Because I do feel like there are some people that are actually working and they're not getting noticed because of everything that's going on. But it just seemed like it's pulling from all type of different ways. Like, do you have anything that we can that companies could probably do in order to try to balance this out to make it fair?
Well, I think it's about what we just talked about. It's about inclusion, right? And the thing is, we can't pick and choose who to include and who not to include. I think from my vantage point, I think Anton was more so looking at it if I'm in private sector, which I still believe that they should align with the same kind of approach that public sector does look at it from, like, at least from the job or organizational aspect. But there, regardless of what you're selling, You want your consumers to feel comfortable, and you want them to be inclusive. You want them to feel as if I can do business with you. When we start putting up these guardrails of what you can and can't do and who we do and do not serve, then it's a slippery slope. Because the thing is, even though this is 2020, that's probably the same approach that a white person had about a black person in the 1960s. And I would say to just even going to school, and Tawana, you know, like we went to University of Illinois, and there was, you know, the Project 500.
Project
Project
500.
500, which was in 1968,
Yep.
in which they had historically not enrolled more than 500 students. So this is part of an initiative, but also part of that, which still holds present day, Black folks were not allowed to participate in the commencement. And to this day, you know, our Big Ten University of Illinois, they still have separate graduations. They have their own commencement. They have a Black commencement. They have an Asian and Pacific Islander commencement. They have Hispanic Latinx commencement. So the thing is, it shows that this was necessary to be an innovation to say, all right, since we can't participate in the actual commencement for the college, we're going to create our own. So the thing is, it was by aspect of having inclusion. And I think right now, when we even think about that movement, right? So we think about that movement in the 60s, that was like civil rights movement, right? We have the Office of Civil Rights. And not to necessarily support what Anton is saying, but to kind of shift it a little bit, that civil rights, the Office of Civil Rights is not the office of Black folks, right? The Office of Civil Rights is really for all people. And one of the things that comes up right now is based on aspects of oppression. When we think about oppression, it's the individual level about how I just personally feel. It's the cultural oppression. And that's the part that you see this happens at the workplace. It's the level of bias that happens at the workplace that people don't talk about it. They're like, well, I don't want to serve that person, or I don't want to talk to that person, or, you know, because such and such is homosexual, I don't want to work with that person. Or this person's friend. So it goes down the list. So now you can't have a decorum of being able to work in a collegial setting because of the fact you have this cultural oppression. Then it speaks to the institutional oppression. I'm a heterosexual man. But the thing is, we know for a fact, going back to what Tawana mentioned about your sexual orientation, guess what? If you work as an employee, you get healthcare benefits and you have a family plan. But guess what? If you're homosexual and you're married, you could then now say like, oh, well, you don't have access to the same benefits as a heterosexual couple because you're homosexual. So now that speaks to the level of institutional oppression based on just the operation of getting health care. That me and you are doing the same job. Like you said, Anton, we're here to do our job. But now I can't get the same benefits, but yet because of who I chose to marry.
My sexual preference,
so
my family can't be covered because I didn't make the lifestyle choice that you made. And I don't think that's fair.
So then it's like you gotta lie to say like, oh, well, I'm single, and really you're not single. And we know we're talking about federal funds and privatized healthcare that works with these companies. And now it's like something as simple as that, I don't get the same healthcare. That's not right. So the thing is, it goes beyond just the color of our skin, but it shows like, well, what is the company stance? Are they okay with it? Like, well, you know, you can't be gay. Technically, you can. Same thing that's happening now with the legalization of cannabis, right? The thing is, you can say like, oh, we can't hire you because you didn't pass your drug screening test. Right now, that's why Illinois packaged it under equity as far as not just legalizing cannabis. But guess what? I don't have the right to deny you a job because of drug screening, because it's legal. Somebody may say, like, to this day, they may say, well, that ain't right. It's
not legal federally. It's not legal.
But see, so to that point, you just said being able to run your own business, right? Does that impact whether someone can do the job or not? We're not saying somebody's coming to work under the influence. It's the same thing as drinking. Same policy. Guess what? You can't come to work drunk. You can't come to work high. As far as what you do outside of work, that's what you do. So the thing is, this is the aspect of being inclusive about how we treat our employees, for one, how we hire them, how we have retention of employees, and how we serve our customers. So the thing is, Anton, I know you're looking at it from the aspect of like, hey, this is my company. I do what I want. But the thing is, I'm looking at it from the aspect of both public and private sector. We still have consumers in which we serve our community in which we reside. So the thing is, we got to do right by our consumers. Because the thing is,
but B-Nix, here's the thing. I'm not disagreeing with the overwhelming majority of what you're saying. I'm agreeing in that discrimination is wrong. I'm agreeing that gay couples, and as far as I know, from an HR perspective, if you are a married gay couple, you get the exact same benefits as a heterosexual couple.
That's recent. That's recent, though.
Mm-hmm. I know that's something that I think was a good thing.
Yeah,
I'm not saying diversity and inclusion is a bad thing. I'm agreeing that everybody should be on the same page. The part where I'm disagreeing, and not necessarily with you, B Nix, because, and I not you either, Tawana, I'm not saying that diversity and inclusion is a bad thing. It's a great thing. But what I'm saying is anything can become a bad thing if you push too hard on the other side. Because a lot of the conversation also, and I think that every part of the conversation should include every aspect. So who are we pushing out, for example, right? Are we having conversations not just about a diversity and inclusion, but are we then starting to discriminate against other people, such as the example where I indicated where a lot of Asians, and that's actually, you can look that up, and I'm talking to the audience, you can look that up and you can Google it. There's a lot of Asians that are no longer being admitted because there are quotas that need to be met according to these standards. So if we're saying we're not going to discriminate, how do we then discriminate and determine whether or not we're going to let somebody else in?
Well, to that point, I agree with you, but that's why it goes back to your mission, your goals, your policy, your outcomes. Because the thing is, we can't gloss over this. And the thing is, companies are not prepared to say, well, what do we do about this? Because then now it became one of those, like, what about black folks? Then now it's like, oh, well, what about Latinx and Hispanic culture? But the thing is, like, Asians are also, regardless of whether people feel they're not a real minority, they're still a minority in a sense as far as ethnic groups in our society. But the thing is, it never comes up in the conversation. We only talk about blacks and Hispanics. That's it. So then now, guess what? If I'm Asian and Asian, that could be Indian, that could be Japanese, all different aspects of their country. And the thing is, may say like, well, my name don't even come up. So guess what? I don't feel included in the conversation. Because the thing is, folks want to talk about, like you said, Hispanic Heritage Month and Black History Month. But the thing is, do all the damn months then. We can't continue to pick and choose which groups based on our group identity that we support and which ones we don't support. Same thing if I'm Jewish. I'm going to say, you know what? Like, hey, you know what? With the different holidays, hey, you could take off of that. But based on if you're from another like group identity you belong to, we're not giving you any time off.
Listen, I learned a hard lesson because I was 24 in management, you know, and I was supervising 13 people at 24 years old. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh my God, like, and so I think I sent email and I said Merry Christmas to the staff, right? And there was a Jewish person in my office, and I did know that he was, but I had no idea, you know, that would offend him, and it did. And he was like, look, I don't celebrate. Now, mind you, I work in a predominantly Black organization, but that doesn't mean that there isn't different communities and different, you know, we're just the predominant. We may be 60%. There's Hispanic, there's Asian, there's other cultures, right? And so he's Jewish and he's like, you know, I'm very offended by this because I don't celebrate this, and you sent this to everyone as if I'm supposed to respond. And I was totally caught off guard, you know, being new to management. That was my first lesson on inclusion. And
it's about appropriate language.
It's appropriate language. And I felt like you cannot just feel like everyone is, you know, on board with Christmas and New Year's. And, you know,
but no, I agree with you.
You know,
it's a level of education around it.
I disagree with that whatsoever.
Once folks are educated, you can't look the other way and say I didn't know. Because the thing is, it's a gender bias as well, as far as pay rates. And the fact is,
see, that's where I disagree, fam.
It's true, because we know for a fact, even though quiet is
you see, disagree with what? What you disagree with?
Can I make this one point, then I give it back to Anton?
I want to hear it.
But the aspect of ageism, how people are hired. I want to mention a good point about being at a certain age of 24. That was not like a humble brag or anything like that. That's great for her. But at the same time, we've been in those situations where, you know what, somebody say like, you know what, Anton, you can't do the job, not because you're not capable, but you wet behind the ears. Yep. And the thing is, that will be a sole reason why they don't offer you the job, because somebody on the committee thinks you're too young to do the job. Or guess what? You have just a little bit too much experience. that means, guess what? You're too old. We don't want to hire you because guess what? That means that you might be retiring soon, and I'm going to be on the hook for some post-retirement benefits. And the thing is, that shows how messed up our hiring process is, that people are discriminated against with even getting the job to work for the company based on things that are beyond their control. I can't control my age, whether I'm old or young. But the thing is, we've seen it in the past, hairstyles, right? Remember when being black, where if you wore dreads, it's like, oh no, you got to cut your hair if you're trying to interview. Well,
Yeah.
why? And we've seen it in sports, where we've seen it in high schools, where like kids would have to shave their head in order to participate in a wrestling match because they're participating in a certain tournament in which they're the minoritized group. This goes way beyond just so many things.
When I've been in my industry for 14 years and I'm super knowledgeable about what I do, but I had braids. I got braids like midway through. I may have worked there for a couple months and then I got braids. And the guy who I managed, he was like, we had a good rapport. So I think he felt comfortable with me. He was like, you know, you look more professional when you don't wear braids. You know what I mean? Like, why are you, you know, when you wear braids, like, I feel like you kind of not as professional as you are.
And think about it, beards that used to be professional work either.
But I'm like, dude, I'm the same person whether I have braids or not. Like, I'm professional. I know what I'm doing. I got the same knowledge. But to him, I presented to him as if, because I had braids, I was more.
He was white.
Aligned, huh?
He was white.
He was Puerto Rican. He was Puerto Rican, actually. He was not white, but he was Puerto Rican, you know, and so he felt like he felt that he needed to tell me that I looked more professional when I wear my hair like this. He's like, why don't you wear your hair straight? You look more professional.
Right. And that speaks
and
to
he
now.
said that to me.
That shows the levels of oppression, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, you don't know for a fact that level of bias has now prevented Tawana from being able to apply for a future job within the company or being talked about within the company. Because now, guess what? You know what? I'm going to make it uncomfortable for you, and I'm going to force you out, so I don't got to deal with this no more. We know things like this happen. And the thing is, you know what? If anything, it starts in the school setting. School and workplace settings are the main locations where the level of implicit bias take place, because you have a group of people who technically are all coming from different neighborhoods having to coexist in a space for the majority of the day. That's where most of this lives at, in school settings and in workplace settings. I know for a fact, when I was in college, I had an instructor. She was from Bangladesh. The first thing she said, hey, I had like a dog tag, right? The first thing she said, we're going to talk today about your medallions and how you all have children at the age of 12, right? And the thing is, I was like, so I'm the only other black person, me and the other guy, we looked at each other like, who is she talking to about having babies at the age of 12? But the thing is, it's like, I got to sit here and listen to this lady for a whole semester knowing that she already has a bias against me because I'm black.
That's right.
And the thing is, guess what? I have to sit there, right? I need this class, right? And the thing is, like, where do I go to empower myself? So that's the point of having this diversity, equity, and inclusion, these committees and these task force, and actually having authenticated with the mission, goals, strategic plans. Because the thing is, guess what? I had no space I could go to. Because the thing is, if I go somewhere, what do I have? What policy do I have to say, she discriminated against me? The thing is, you got to give folks their voice.
My hair had no bearing on whether I was able to, I had the ability to do the job. And the thing is, I really had got my braids because I was working out during that time and I wanted to keep my hair looking a certain way. And I think that people made that assumption, and it was so unfair to judge me based on the way my hair looked, because I literally had so much knowledge, so much experience in that particular department. And honestly, it didn't affect me moving forward, but it just really bothered me that someone felt the need to tell me that I should look a certain way in order to present presentable. And I think that that's why diversity and inclusion is necessary. That's my
opinion. Anton, I know you had disagreed with B Nix when he stated something earlier, and I periodically saw you shaking your head. You want to chime in on this conversation?
No, that's some of that simp talk that he was talking about, right? You know, that's that simp talk, right?
You know, because like for example, if you look in healthcare, right? Women overwhelmingly dominate healthcare. Should we be placing that on the pedestal or bringing that to the front of the church and saying, Yo, we got to get more men in healthcare because women, they dominate it. They make more money than men in this specific aspect. Or are we having this conversation and saying, you know what? Women just are naturally better than men in most respects as far as
Don't say
they
that.
are interested.
I hope this is like a scenario and not
what
how
they
you
are
feel.
interested in as it relates to their overwhelming, caring, and nurturing nature. They thrive in this specific environment. I know specific jobs that require you to be able to lift 80 pounds minimum. And there is a lot of women that had complained about it and said, well, the minimum should be lower. I'm sorry. So does that mean that the people that can lift 80 pounds, they're going to make the exact same money as you, but they have to lift the overwhelming majority of the heavier packages while you can't lift 80 pounds and you have to lift less? So you see what I'm saying? It's called over civilization. And what happens is when we start to try to equalize to the point beyond equal for all, and we start to push beyond those limits, what happens is we start to discriminate unknowingly and unnecessarily against other people that may not necessarily even need to be in that position in the first place. So what I'm saying is we always, and I see this, and again, I'm agreeing with a lot of the narrative behind B-Nix and Tawana. There are some things that I do disagree with that they are saying, but the thing that I don't like that they do, which is a reflection of a lot of people that have these conversations, is they don't talk about both sides of the coin. They only talk about the side that they feel like they are most passionate about, the thing that they want to trumpet and highlight. But I don't think that they're objective enough to admit and address both sides of the coin. For example, civil rights and the affirmative action movement was necessary at the time that they were established because there was a clear bias and a clear discrimination against a certain set of people. Now, in 2020, are we still having the conversations of how necessary it is and how it's overcompensating for people that may not be prepared to go into a certain setting, such as a college setting? There are people that are flunking out of certain universities because they met a quota and they didn't necessarily meet the criteria for being able to get in on their own merits. And so that's what I'm saying, is that let's include all of the parts of the conversation into the conversation and not just the part that we want to champion because we like this part, but we want to leave that part out. I like it when, and I hate to go here, but I see it when people, like, for example, they quote the Bible, right? They only like certain parts of it. They don't like the whole thing. I'm gonna pick this part and I'm gonna pick this part, but I don't like that part. It's almost like if I say something is a sin, then it's a sin on both sides. Like, I don't pick and choose which part is and which part isn't according to how I feel at the time. I have an uncomfortable conversation about even the parts that I don't like because I'm including the entirety of it into the conversation. So I may even be wrong, or I may even be, I'm open to the possibility that I may be wrong about some things. But at the same time, I know I'm right about the idea that I'm inclusive about the entire conversation and not just the parts that I see and that I want to trumpet and highlight based off of the subject that we're talking about right now. That's the problem that I'm
having. Anton, it's like our podcast. We all have different perspectives. We can't please everyone. I think that when it comes to this world, we approach it in the same way. It's like we know that all these issues exist, but can we literally please everyone? No. So it comes down to demographic and it comes down to population, right? Let me control the population. We have a huge Hispanic population. We have a huge Black population. And depending on your geographic location, you have to target the specific audience that you have to target. And that is, I think, what diversity and inclusion tries to do. It says, hey, you know what? We have 13% African-American people in this, community that we serve. We need to make sure that we are inclusive in these areas. And I think that is the smart way to do it, because you can't do it any other way. You have to use
I agree.
physical data,
But again,
and you have to be smart about the approach.
But see, that's the part. Again, I'm objective, so I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not discounting that at all.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is there are some circumstances. For example, if you own Tawana's Love Factory, I see the love in the back of the background, right? You got Tawana's Love Factory, and you know that you got two candidates, right? Mm-hmm. And one of them is black and one of them is white.
Yeah.
For example, right? And let's just say hypothetically, and this is obviously never the case, or not always the case, but let's say the white candidate is a little bit better as far as their credentials or what they bring to the table. They interview better, whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then at the same time, the overwhelming majority of the people that's in Tawana's Love Factory is not an accurate reflection of the community that you serve.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do? As an owner, not as a worker, but as a person that's actually responsible for the well-being of the company, what do?
You pick the most qualified person.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I'm saying is that we do need to be conscious of the communities that we serve and the populations that's affected by our decisions on a regular basis. And we need to educate people on, being, like, for example, when you gave the example about you being 24 and being conscious of the people that are, a part of your current environment and your culture. However, we also need to make sure that people are not discriminating against other people as a result of these policies in which we're implementing and that we're championing that we know are good. But just like anything, it's like the internet, right? The internet is supposed to be a good thing. It's an information highway. It's a great way for us to connect. We can link up with our people. Yeah. But it's super toxic if you go to this one part. And we need to make sure that part does not infect what our general purpose was to be good and create this good thing for the benefit of us all. That's all I'm saying.
I hear you. When I was like taking my concealing carry class, the officer, he was like, you can turn from a victim to a perpetrator really quickly, right? Like you can be in one moment you think you're a victim, but then you're a perpetrator, right? You're the one who's actually initiating aggression. So I hear you in that if we're so inclusive that we forget about that population of people who really operate on a different mindset and really are structured and really have these different things in place, are we really being inclusive, or are we kind of unconsciously, neglecting a certain group of people? You know what I mean? And I do identify with that because I think I tend to be a little traditional in some ways, and I don't want to be so inclusive that you forget that I'm existing, that I have these values, right?
But the thing is, Tawana, you mentioned just at this class, there still was a level of education. Because the thing is, folks have to be able to be in a setting in order to dedicate themselves to being a learner. Because the thing is, like, what is it the saying? Hey, I adopt the mindset of my oppressor. And the thing is, as much as black folks talk about white folks, then when we're no longer the minoritized group in which we then rank as majority, then what do? We take that same approach and then marginalize other people when we become the majority. So the thing is, I'm not going to title that as reverse racism like you mentioned earlier, but it's to the same outcome that you're talking about, that even if I'm black and I'm viewed as a minority in our just westernized society of the United States, the thing is, my neighborhood is still all black. So the thing is, then guess what? If somebody that's the minority enters my space, then guess what? I'm going to not provide them with the same access and opportunities. They're going to be treated differently. So the thing is one of those that folks need to check it at the door. But we can't have it both ways. So, Anton, the only part that I'm feeling you is that about the having it both ways piece. But to me, you mitigate that by educating people. If you're not dedicating yourself to educating people on the entire spectrum, that's why we said it's about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Not the equality piece, but really about being equitable. Because when you're equitable, you're more malleable and understanding it by situation. Equality, that means across the board, like you said about it's a quota, right? And that's the thing where I think folks are shifting from equality, because it's a quota, like, I got to have so many black people, I got to have so many Asian people, I got to have so many Hispanic. Oh, yeah, I already got enough white folks, so I can't hire no more white people because I got to make sure these two. So now it's like, is your criteria has now flipped, where now you're compromising, I guess, quality, for lack of better words, to meet a quota versus a number.
Right.
And now it becomes, this is a compliance activity now.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, and then
Agreed.
I don't even want to work there, because then now I'm looking at it like I'm just a head count. You didn't even want me here anyway. I
agree.
I still want to be valued, that I earned the right to be able to work here, or to be able to say that I want to do business here. Give me that choice. Don't say like, yeah, the only reason you're here because we needed some more darker skinned brothers, or we, same thing with gender. Like, hey, it's women truck drivers, but like, hey, they still got to be able to do the job. We're not saying like, hey, Tawana, we're going to hire you as a truck driver just because, company said we don't got enough women to drive trucks, and we're not going to get this grant money. We're getting these new trucks in unless we hire some more women. And the thing is, if that's the way your company is leading, then that's the wrong way. That's not mission driven.
I agree.
That's not
100%.
about your consumers.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. I mean,
I don't disagree at all.
I've been in management since 24, and so I've been kind of in this position where they pretty much have said to me, like, I have to hire people based on a requirement that they have to fulfill. And so I have a small, pool of people that maybe not even qualify for the position, that I have no choice but to, hire, because I have to meet this 30% criteria that, the company has or whatever. And I totally understand that perspective.
You know what, though?
And I disagree with it.
Can I say one thing in our society we still are biased about every day, and we still haven't done nothing about it? There's a level of privilege that you're a full-time employee working somewhere versus a part-time employee. It's split down the middle about the level of rights that a full-timer has versus a part-timer. And the thing is, guess what? As a society, everybody's looking the other way on it. People are afforded different opportunities. They have even this opportunity to talk and the space to operate. They can mess up, all that. But if they full-time, okay, we're just going to tell you about it. If you part-time, this is the last day you will be working here. And that's the part that shows just a level of bias that our society still treats employees based on job codes. It's crazy, but it's real. But if we don't talk about it, nothing's going to change. I mean, much as folks hated Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, or whatever you want to call it, guess what? Hey, at least you could say that there was some institutional investment in ensuring that part-timers have at least access to affordable health care, versus just saying like, oh, well, hey, I'm giving you 40 hours a week, but since you consider part-time, your hours are your hours, and that's it. You don't get nothing else.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And I've been one of those people. I just got the hours, and I'm thinking in my mind like, oh, I'm getting full-time money now. But then you look at it like, I'm not getting the benefits that come along with full-time. Because then if something goes wrong, guess what? My hours getting cut. If I'm full-time, I got to guarantee you your hours.
B-Nix, thank you for like bringing some of those things to light, because I think we don't think about the impact that diversity and inclusion have. I really like to hear, your perspective on those types of issues. Like, you brought so many things that I thought about in my career, and things that decisions I've had to make unconsciously, not even thinking about inclusion and diversity in my decisions. So I do appreciate that perspective.
I appreciate you too, Anton. Certain aspects.
Yeah, Anton.
No, listen. I think that everything a lot of things that y'all was saying, I would say 90-95% of what y'all said, I 100% agree with. I just felt like it was needed for me to give it from a different perspective as a person that, literally have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money, only for somebody to come in and tell me, in this one business venture, I invested like over $114,000 in less than a year into it. Bought it out, everything, built it up. And then somebody going to tell me what they ain't going to do and what they going to do. And it's like, what?
Right. Like what you mean?
Like, who you talking to? Like,
I feel you, Anton. But you know what, though? I hate the way you frame information when you put it. It hurts me. And the thing is, you
knew it was coming. Knew it was coming.
Anton have a good point, but his framing be like, no, I can't.
But you know what? You know why I gotta frame it like that is because I don't think that people that are like small business owners and business owners in general and stuff, nobody is having a conversation with them and saying, well, how do you feel about it? And conversations are when they're so one-sided because somebody is only speaking from one perspective, and you're not, and that's why I called it a conversation. A conversation is, contributing and receiving on both sides. We get to hear it on all sides. But when we only hear it from the perspective of the person that, and I'm not talking about y'all in particular, but just in general, when we only hear it one-sided, it becomes difficult because I don't think that the entirety of the circumstances is really being communicated so that we can truly address the issue.
And that's not diversity.
So I just wanted to
inclusion. Right.
Yeah,
that's not inclusion. That's not diversity. Exactly.
Yeah, I just wanted to add the other side of that conversation, kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit, just so we can make sure that we capture everything versus, you know what I'm saying, only seeing it from one perspective.
No voice should be lost. No voice should be lost. Everyone's voice has to be included. Yeah.
Agreed. We appreciate you guys for tuning in to Lapeef Let's Talk. This was a great conversation tonight. I really enjoyed it. Every time I tune in with you guys on the panel, I also learn some things. So that brings value to myself as well as to our Lapeef family. We on YouTube at Lapeef Let's Talk. Please share this. This is some good dialogue right here, and we appreciate if you guys just share the knowledge to somebody else that might need it. Until next time, we out.